Chapter 1375. Intense magical fluctuations shook the entire area. The long street was destroyed. Blood splattered everywhere. As soon as the 6 paths great mountain sword flew out, the orange cat had already spread his paws and followed it like a shadow. A second later, the divine sword unleashed its power. With a flash of sword phantom, Elder Dew's head was sent flying. That wasn't the end. The orange cat's eyes were filled with intense killing intent as he leapt up high, wielding a long scepter with both paws, then stabbed it into the headless corpse. The Devil King Warden Rod. None of these Wraith Realm humans were able to react in time. Without knowing what had happened, they had already been killed. And before this Elder Dew died, even though he had lost all consciousness, he still unwillingly called out Fiend. He guessed it. Right now, the Wraith Realm still doesn't know what happened to Elder Dew, but the Wraith Realm is quite proficient in summoning and resurrecting souls, so they might have a way to investigate what happened tonight. I definitely can't let this Elder Dew's soul return to the Wraith Realm, otherwise there would be no end to the consequences. The orange cat held the Devil King Warden Rod down and activated soul dispersion. 1 breath's worth of time later. The scepter was stabbed into the headless corpse, trembling slightly as if it was being chewed, then quickly returned to normal. That's good. Even if the Wraith Realm humans went to heaven or hell, they wouldn't be able to find Elder Dew and interrogate him about what happened tonight. The orange cat sighed in relief. Suddenly, his ears twitched. A shrill alarm resounded. The guards of Void City were rushing over from every direction. The orange cat put his sword and scepter away, silently used ground shrink to hide in the darkness at the corner of the street. It leaped onto a wall and squatted on it, waiting quietly. 1 second later. A second later. Over a dozen fully armored guards suddenly appeared from the void of space, surrounding the scene of the assassination. Where's the killer? He ran away. That was too fast. The battle only lasted for about 3 seconds, one of the guards replied. The guards looked at the corpse on the ground and fell silent. From the moment they sensed the battle until the street was destroyed by the spell, they had rushed here almost immediately. But there was only a corpse on the ground. The battle was already over. A caster descended from the sky and landed in front of the guards. Sir, the guards saluted. The spellcaster nodded and looked at the corpses on the ground. A strange expression gradually appeared on his face. He slowly said, "These Wraith Realm bastards had just offered the City Lord a powerful defensive causality law technique, saying that it was to strengthen Void City's defenses. I was also present during the demonstration. Their defensive techniques are indeed very strong, so the City Lord is very happy." Who knew? Just as we left the house, the law of causality was the strongest law in the occult. To possess such a powerful defensive causality technique. But in just 3 seconds they were all dead. Everyone listened while looking at the corpse on the ground. The night wind blew. Suddenly, everyone felt cold. In the distance, the orange cat crouched on the wall for a while, then turned to leave. Under the cover of the night, it sped towards the Hitman Guild. Halfway there, the orange cat suddenly stopped. No, if the Wraith Realm investigated further, they might find out from the City Lord's manner that Crow and I had a conflict with Elder Dew then. Crow and I are both suspects. After returning to the guild, Crow didn't go out. I told Sheen that I'm going to visit a friend, then came out to assassinate Elder Dew. Visit a friend. The orange cat pondered for a bit, then changed direction and continued forward. If that's the case, I'll go look for Buttercup. She can provide me with an alibi. The orange cat quickly made his way through the alleyways and reached another wall, looking at a small brick house surrounded by flowers on the other side. This was Buttercup's residence. At this point, the long night had passed and morning had arrived. The sky was a bit brighter. Candlelight could be seen from inside the house, the door was unlatched, and the faint sound of soft music could be heard. Occasionally, he could even hear people talking in low voices. In the garden outside the small brick house, 2 gardeners were trimming the flowers. They would occasionally listen to the voices inside the house, but were mostly focused on their work. Seeing this, the orange cat felt a bit hesitant. The house was set up with an anti-prying technique, so inner sight couldn't enter. But this time, the celebrity was Buttercup, who was entertaining a friend. And since it was still early in the morning, Buttercup had hired a gardener to trim the flowers. Wouldn't it be too rash for me to meet her like this? The orange cat's gaze moved around, then noticed that there was a small door at the bottom of the house. The small door was completely open, with a line of text written above it: "Frowny face special for pet cats." Next to the door, the dog was still sleeping. It was sleeping soundly. The orange cat was a bit doubtful. Strange, this door wasn't here the last time I came. He thought for a bit and slowly understood. In Void City, only Buttercup knew that I could turn into a cat. Buttercup had made this door and left it wide open, meaning that she knew I was coming. How is that possible? The orange cat wagged his tail and jumped down from the wall. Night was about to end, the effects of the ghostly shadow of night would also disappear, so he needed to make a decision quickly. The orange cat walked straight through the street, arrived in front of the small brick house, and silently listened. The sound of talking and music inside the house became clearer. After listening for a while, the orange cat was able to hear his own voice. What's going on? The orange cat was even more confused. He decided to climb the stairs and arrived in front of the door. The small door was open. The dog was still sleeping. The orange cat slowly went through the small door. Inside the house, an orange candle was silently burning. Buttercup was sitting on the sofa, reading a book. An ancient phonograph was placed on the windowsill, continuously playing music and the sound of people talking to each other. One was Gu Qingshan's voice. The other was Buttercup's voice. The orange cat looked at the phonograph, then at Buttercup. She seemed to be a bit tired, sitting cross-legged on the sofa and flipping through the pages of her book out of boredom. "Meow," the orange cat tentatively called out. Buttercup's expression changed. She stretched her back and asked, "You're finally here, where are you?" The orange cat turned back into Gu Qingshan. "You seem to know that I was coming," Gu Qingshan said. "That's right, I have a friend who's the advisor of the City Lord's manor. She's an expert in astrology, and I just received a message from her saying that you might need an alibi," Buttercup replied. Gu Qingshan froze. Buttercup closed her book, then pointed at the chair in front of her. Sit. Gu Qingshan sat down and asked, "How did your friend know that I was coming?" "You went to look for her to perform astrology?" Buttercup asked in return. "That's right, I wanted to change my codename, so I went to perform a divination under my friend's suggestion," Gu Qingshan admitted. He simply recounted everything that had happened that night. Buttercup silently listened to him and smiled. "It's fortunate that she sent me a message, otherwise you wouldn't have been able to see me. You weren't home?" Gu Qingshan asked. "I was in special training, I only hurried back after hearing about you," Buttercup replied. "That friend of yours, could she have seen what I was about to do?" Gu Qingshan asked again. "She's an expert in divining the connection between people. In fact, the first thing she divined was that the connection between you and herself was me. In other words, both of you know me. Because you're my friend, she did everything she could to help you calculate." Once, saying so, Buttercup took out a blank card and lightly flicked it with her finger. Immediately, a female voice resounded from the card. "Dai, your hitman friend is performing astrology here. His body is exuding a thick law of death, most likely going to battle tonight. I saw the people of the Wraith Realm, they've all turned into corpses. After a while, the law of death on the hitman's body will subside, at which point he will go to find you, most likely to prove that he wasn't at the scene of the assassination. I'm only informing you, you can decide for yourself what to do." The voice disappeared. Gu Qingshan fell silent. My actions this time were almost perfect. But someone was able to tell that I was the one who did it through a fragment of the future. No matter how much you plan, they only need a glance to know what you're going to do in the future. This kind of ability was too unreasonable. Buttercup chuckled and said, "Don't worry, she's my friend, so she won't expose you. The ones you killed were people of the Wraith Realm. She couldn't be happier. She has a conflict with the Wraith Realm?" Gu Shan asked. An irreconcilable conflict," Buttercup replied. Gu Shan felt a bit relieved. However, an astrologer is able to see fragments of the future. Back in the 900 million world layers, I've never heard of an astrologer being able to do this. If that's the case, I have too many secrets on me, so I'll have to stay away from people of this profession. Seeing the cautious expression on Gu Shan's face, Buttercup shook her head. Don't think too much about it. In truth, among all astrologers, she's the only one who can see fragments of the future. This is her unique talent. Chapter 1376. Music slowly began to play from the phonograph. The door of the red brick house had already been closed. Buttercup sat cross-legged on the sofa, propping up her cheeks as she observed Gu Shan. Gu Shan was confused and asked, "What is it?" Buttercup slowly replied, "I'm thinking whether or not I should turn you into an ominous demon. That way your power will increase explosively. Are you worried that the Wraith Realm people won't let me go?" Gu Shan asked. Buttercup sighed, then replied, "They had just gotten into a conflict with you, only to die as soon as they left the house. Even if you have an alibi with the Wraith Realm's countless means, they might be able to find some clues." Gu Shan wasn't that worried. "After all, I already dealt with Elder Du's soul. If the Wraith Realm people didn't have any evidence, they wouldn't dare to act rashly in a place like Void City. Which means they can only carry out small-scale assassinations." Gu Shan was confident that he could handle an attack of this level. So he leaned back on his chair and asked in a relaxed tone, "You can turn me into an ominous demon?" Buttercup thought that he was tempted and spoke expectantly. "Not only can I turn you into an ominous demon, but I can also turn you back into human form at any time, just like how I am right now. My strength can be greatly increased?" Gu Shan pursued. "At least twice as much. Ominous demons are all products of the mutated laws, each of them unique and powerful," Buttercup replied. Gu Shan hesitated. He was actually a bit tempted and hesitantly asked, "Will the transformation definitely succeed?" "Not really, but don't worry, even if it fails, you won't die." Saying so, Buttercup clapped her hands. A dog came in through the door, then sat down at Buttercup's feet. "See, this is an example of failure. But if you turn into a dog, I'll take care of you from now on." Buttercup stroked the dog's head. The dog stared at Gu Shan with a confused look, as if it was trying to recall something. Gu Shan wiped the cold sweat off her forehead and forced a smile. "Forget it, I'll just be a human. I'm more used to the fighting style of humans." Buttercup sighed slightly. Gu Shan wasn't willing to give up her identity as a human. If they wanted to protect him, they would have to use other methods. She flicked the blank card and said in a low voice, "Woman, are you still there?" The white card trembled slightly. Buttercup said, "Very well, can you predict what my assassin friend will encounter next?" A female voice suddenly came from the white card. "I don't need to calculate to know." Buttercup and Gu Shan's expressions changed. The female voice replied, "I can sense those who were killed. Their souls are currently leaving Void City and returning to the Wraith Realm. Elder Du is missing." Although Gu Shan knew that the other party could see the future, she still couldn't help but feel shocked. This city lord's aide's perception and astrology are too powerful. The female voice continued, "But what you don't know is that even if Elder Du's soul disappears, the spark of light he had would still exist within primal chaos. The Wraith Realm has life talismans and immortal skills from all three directions: space-time technique, soul growth technique, and body reconstruction technique. As long as they are willing to investigate, they would definitely find out the truth. And so, quickly send your assassin friend away, the further the better." At this point, the voice from the card disappeared. Buttercup put the card on the table with a worried expression. She turned to Gu Shan and said, It seems you have to leave. Gu Qingshan stayed silent and said nothing. The Wraith realm had only fused 60 to 70% of the world fragments, which was far from being comparable to the tomb of myriad beasts. But they were already this powerful. Buttercup reached her hand out and stroked the dog's head again. "Stand up, it's time to use you," she said. The dog rolled on the ground and turned into a burly man with a blade on his back. Buttercup said, "This is a person I saved. He has several unique human world warp techniques on him. Follow him and leave immediately." Before Gu Qingshan could say anything, the burly man already spoke up. "Madam, I know him." Buttercup was surprised. "HM? How do you know him?" Gu Qingshan turned to the burly man. He already felt that this dog's gaze towards him was a bit off. Gu Qingshan also replied, "That's right, we've met before, in a completely sealed world," the burly man replied. His gaze displayed deep hatred as he asked Gu Qingshan, "Did you also fall for that old guide scheme?" Gu Qingshan opened her mouth, but couldn't say anything. On the Gemini star, Shanu pretended to be the so-called old guide, to help me deal with Lin. But this burly man ran out halfway and begged the old guide to help him return to his original Fei Shui world. In her panic, Shanu randomly pointed him to a random world. The burly man was successfully warped away. This scene won Lin's trust. However, the world Shanu pointed him to was a world where all men had gone extinct, leaving only women. I didn't think I would run into him here. And he was a guy who failed to convert into a demon and turned into a dog. Gu Qingshan couldn't help but ask Buttercup, "Where did you find this guy?" Buttercup replied, "There are always people who are willing to give up everything to summon us ominous demons to help them, you know. One day, I received some sort of summoning ritual, so I went to take a look, thinking of something." Buttercup's face reddened a bit and continued, "Then I found out that this guy was living a pitiful life, being used as some sort of tool day and night, so he was willing to give up everything in exchange for me to take him away." "So you brought him to Void City?" Gu Qingshan asked. "Yes, I originally wanted to turn him into an ominous demon, that way I would have a helper, but his conversion failed, so I had no choice but to let him watch over my children." However, he unexpectedly awakened a few fixed-point warp abilities, secretly holding a few unique spatial warp channels. This became a backup plan of mine, so I left him at home in case of emergencies, Buttercup explained. Gu Qingshan looked at the burly man. The burly man's body was as thin as a skeleton, his eyes were already black and blue, clearly having been tortured for a very long time. This person is also someone with a lot of misfortune. He finally managed to break through the void of space with his martial arts and leave the Fei Shui world, only to go to the Gemini star, the world that forbade all supernatural powers. He finally managed to leave the Gemini star, only to go to a world that only had women. In the end, he was saved by Buttercup and brought back to Void City, but his conversion failed and he became a dog. With that in mind, Gu Qingshan felt a bit apologetic. He sighed and patted the burly man's shoulder. "You've suffered, I'm truly sorry about what happened to you." The burly man also seemed to have recalled the past, cutting off Gu Qingshan's words and gritted his teeth. "This has nothing to do with you, it's all that old guide's fault. He threw me into that kind of world. One day, I'll definitely find him for my revenge." Gu Qingshan went silent, not daring to say anything else about this. Buttercup retracted her thoughts and told Gu Qingshan, "There's no time to lose, the people of the Wraith realm might arrive at any moment. I'll have him open those spatial channels and send you away." "No," Gu Qingshan resolutely replied. "I didn't know that the Wraith realm had such an ability before, but now that I do, I'll deal with the aftermath myself." "You're not leaving?" Buttercup asked in surprise. "I'm going to stay here until I become a titled hitman, then fight for that chance you mentioned," Gu Qingshan replied. Buttercup froze. "Indeed, only by becoming a titled hitman would I have a reasonable chance to enter the Wraith realm. No one knows the secret of the Wraith realm. This is the only chance." Buttercup hesitantly said, If they come to kill you, dash, counter soldiers with arms, water with an earth weir, are you sure? I'll try to smooth this over. If that doesn't work, then I'll just fight them. Saying so, Gu Qingshan quickly thought of a strategy. I can do my job while fighting against the Wraith Realm. If they can't kill me, that would actually help my reputation. Wouldn't that be faster for me to become a titled hitman? He silently thought. Buttercup patted the man's shoulder and said, There's no need for you now. The man turned back into the dog, ran out the door, and laid down on the stairs. It was now that Buttercup sat back down on the sofa and muttered, Very well, if we're going to play, let's play it big. If the wraiths dare to act recklessly, I'll go crazy with you. Intense dark magic began to exude from her body. All of a sudden, the blank card flew up from the table by itself, hovering in front of Gu Qingshan. The female voice from before spoke up again. Fiend, which combatant of the Wraith Realm do you have a grudge against? Gu Qingshan was surprised. Buttercup's nervous voice immediately resounded in his mind. Don't be careless, be careful. Gu Qingshan understood and sincerely replied. I don't have a grudge against anyone, it's just that I want to kill them, all of them. The female voice asked again. Why? Gu Qingshan recalled what he saw during his spirit wanderer state, then recalled what happened in the tomb of myriad beasts. Those Wraith Realm humans directly stole the delimitation artifact and released all the apocalypses in the Great Tomb. If I hadn't gone to the parallel worlds to call for reinforcements, the entire tomb of myriad beasts would have been destroyed. Li Qiu and her younger sister, Zhao Qiong, Wang Shun, as well as countless others like them, would have died within the endless apocalypses. The worlds around the tomb of myriad beasts would have been destroyed. Gu Qingshan couldn't help but clench his fist and casually said, I'm sure you understand the Wraith Realm's way of doing things. Only by killing these Wraith Realm humans and destroying the entire Wraith Realm would I feel at ease, but if you want to go against the entire Wraith Realm by yourself, you will definitely fail, the female voice replied. Things that haven't happened yet can't be said to be fated. Even if you can see the future still has different directions, and it will ultimately be decided by our choices, Gu Qingshan replied. During his first meeting with Lady Fusey had also said that she could see several futures for Gu Qingshan. But Gu Qingshan decided not to believe in these futures. He would rather fight for it himself. As soon as he made this decision, Lady Fusey was able to see more futures related to him. This attitude of his was one of the reasons why Lady Fusey admired him and was willing to give him the Earth God's coin. Hearing him say that, the female voice went silent. After a long while, she slowly spoke. I've found the faint glow of Elder Dew within Primal Chaos. I've destroyed it and allowed it to return to Primal Chaos. Your killing of him will not be exposed. But since you had a conflict with Elder Dew in the City Lord's Manor, you should be careful of those Wraith Realm humans trying to probe you. After saying so, the blank card returned to the table. Everything returned to silence. Gu Qingshan looked at Buttercup in shock. What's going on? Why is this City Lord's aide suddenly willing to help me? Xiao Dai was overjoyed. That's great, with her help, there won't be any issues this time. Chapter 1377. Who exactly was that advisor? Gu Qingshan asked. Human. Buttercup was clearly in a good mood, so she continued. Let me remind you, both she and I aren't human, we're both currently pretending to be humans. Why do you have to do that? Gu Qingshan asked. Buttercup replied. Humans are a race that's easy to communicate with. Many monsters in the void take human forms simply because compared to their original gigantic bodies, humans are able to disguise their identities better, as well as avoid the apocalypse. Thinking of something, she chuckled. There was once a wormhole demon spirit who took human form and fell in love with a void fishwoman who also took human form for 5 years. In truth, the demon spirit itself feeds on floating fishes, but it wasn't until 5 years later that they found out about each other's true identity. Gu Qingshan recalled that scene and couldn't help but ask, Then did the demon spirit eat the void fishwoman? Buttercup replied, No, he let her go, but she combined her experiences to write a novel about a domineering CEO, which went viral. Gu Qing-shan rubbed her temples. What a mess. Alright, let's not talk about anything else. So what exactly was that advisor's race? Gu Qing-shan pulled the conversation back to the main topic. Buttercup mysteriously replied, "Don't ask, she's very cautious and doesn't like people asking about her, so let's not offend her on this matter." While they were talking, Buttercup seemed to have sensed something and abruptly waved her hand. The phonograph disappeared. The sound of music and voices also disappeared. The sound of a dog barking could be heard from outside. Then, there was a deep and resounding voice. "This humble one is Yu Tiangui, a Wraith Might of the Wraith Realm. I've come to pay a visit under the Wraith Lord's orders. May I ask if Butterfly Maiden is here?" A Wraith Realm person. Buttercup quickly exchanged glances with Gu Qing-shan. They arrived so quickly. This Yu Tiangui doesn't seem to be on Tsang Wuzhang's side, most likely a subordinate of another Wraith Lord. Gu Qing-shan silently thought. "Come in," Buttercup casually said. The door slowly opened. A man wearing a yiksha mask and full body armor walked in. He looked at Buttercup, then at Gu Qing-shan. "I have no choice but to take the liberty to come here. I hope that Lady Butterfly will not blame me." Yu Tiangui said, "I don't think I have anything to do with your Wraith Realm. Why did you come here?" Buttercup asked. At this moment, two short screams could be heard from outside. Someone reported, "Lord Nethery, we've checked the memories of these two gardeners. When the incident happened, the assassin was with the Butterfly Lady and didn't go out." Yu Tiangui listened without batting an eyelid, his gaze fixed on Gu Qing-shan. He didn't believe it. Buttercup slammed the table and said angrily, "What did you do to the gardener outside? How dare you touch my people in my territory?" Yu Tiangui explained, "Those two gardeners aren't from the ominous demon tower, nor are they Lady Butterfly's subordinates, but rather flower artists from the emerald green world. That's why we're using them to obtain some information." He took a step forward and asked Gu Qing-shan, "This unsolvable rank hitman, you seemed to be quite arrogant yesterday, and even got into a conflict with our elder Du?" Gu Qing-shan slowly stood up and casually replied, "If it weren't for the city lord's people stopping me, he would already be dead." A sword appeared in his hand. Faint killing intent exuded from his body. Hearing that, Yu Tiangui couldn't help but be surprised. Does he not know that Elder Du is already dead? When questioned, murderers usually don't show any signs of wanting to kill their target. Furthermore, a mere unsolvable rank hitman dares to speak to me like that? Gu Qing-shan coldly laughed. "Are you thinking that a mere unsolvable rank hitman dares to speak to you like that?" He took a step forward and continued, "Truthfully, who do you think you are?" Yu Tiangui's killing intent surged, and was about to draw his weapon when Buttercup spoke up. Buttercup replied, "He is a family member of our ominous demon tower, a family member of mine." Gu Qing-shan continued to smirk. "I've only just arrived at Void City, so I'm only unsolvable rank. If you're not afraid of death, how about we fight outside?" Buttercup narrowed her eyes. "Daring to touch a member of our ominous demon tower, I think I should tell our tower master about this." Yu Tiangui paused, unable to react. Gu Qing-shan quickly walked out, kicked the door open, and stood on the empty ground outside. "Come, let's decide who's the winner," he loudly shouted. Yu Tiangui didn't move. Normally, such an arrogant person would either die early on, or they're actually quite capable. But isn't this personality a bit too easy to ignite? From the looks of it, he's most likely relying on the ominous demon tower's power. No wonder he dared to turn against Elder Du on the spot. This type of person is very simple, their path has been too smooth, so they're arrogant and overbearing. Logically speaking, he can't be the culprit. However, I still have to test his strength. If he's weak, then I can completely eliminate him. If he really is strong enough to kill Elder Du and the others in a few seconds, then this matter will become complicated. More importantly, This person is related to the ominous demon tower. Then I'll have to report this to the Wraith Lord and let him decide how to deal with him. Yu Tiange had already made up his mind, so he took out a halberd from his back and said, "Very well, I'll go with you." Before he could finish, Buttercup had already taken out a glowing butterfly and muttered, "Tower Master, the Wraith Realm people have broken into my home, yes. They want to kill my family." Yu Tiange immediately put the halberd back on his back and shouted, "Wait! Your Excellency Butterfly Lady, I'm only here to take a look and greet you. I have no intention of disturbing you or your family." Buttercup coldly stared at him and asked, "Really?" The man outside was still shouting, "Puppy, come out and fight your grandpa." The veins on Yu Tiangui's forehead were twitching. He took a deep breath and slowly replied, "It's true, I'm here to greet you. I don't have any proof. While the other party is furious, I definitely can't touch the family members of the ominous demon tower. The ominous demons have never been reasonable, so if I really provoke all of them, even the Wraith Lords would have a headache. After all, the ominous demons' threatening methods are too strange. The 3 Wraith Lords still haven't found a suitable way to deal with them." Buttercup coldly scoffed, "Remember what you said, if I see you bullying my family members, I won't hold back." "Understood. This humble one will take his leave," Yu Tiangue replied. He turned around and quickly left the room. The man outside was still wielding his sword, still shouting, "Don't go! Farewell!" Yu Tiangue flew up and prepared to leave. Suddenly, a hand appeared from the void of space and lightly pushed him back down. Yu Tiangue once again stood on the ground. As he turned around, he saw that both his shoulders were being held down. Around him, dozens of burly men had already surrounded him. "Brat, did you dare to bully our people?" A man with a cartoon bear tattoo on his chest shouted. Yu Tiangue felt cold sweat dripping down his back. "Tower Master, it's like this, one of our elders was killed, and in just a few seconds the other party. But before that, we found out that this, Lady Di's man seemed to have a bit of a grudge against our elder. This was a misunderstanding, because I noticed that Lady Di and her man had been staying at home the entire night, so it wasn't her man who did it. All in all, it was my mistake. I hope everyone can forgive me. This was all our Wraith Lord's orders. I was only doing my job. Please have mercy and don't make things difficult for us servants." After explaining everything clearly, he hurriedly apologized and complained, lowering his status as much as possible. The surroundings were deathly silent. Boundless killing intent emanated from the bodies of these burly men, almost as if it was real. Such killing intent. Yu Tiangue couldn't help but wipe the sweat off his forehead and bowed. "Everyone, this humble one truly didn't mean to offend you." The group of men all shook their heads. Suddenly, one of them asked with a coarse voice, "Just now, you said Buttercup and her man had been staying at home the entire time?" All the ominous demons stared at Yu Tiangue. If it weren't for the fact that they wanted to know the truth, they would have already crushed this ghost. Standing in the middle, Yu Tiangue felt like he was about to die. He gritted his teeth and pointed at Gu Qingshan. "That's right, his suspicions can be eliminated. This humble one can guarantee that he wasn't the one who did it. This humble one will not investigate him again. This humble one guarantees." A second later, all the ominous demons turned to look at Gu Qingshan at the same time. Gu Qingshan's hair stood on end. "Why do I feel like I'm about to die?" At this point, a voice came from inside the room. "Who said he's my man?" Buttercup walked out and scoffed at Yu Tiangue. "You want to investigate a murder case with that kind of eyesight?" "He's clearly my little brother." As soon as she said so, Gu Qingshan instantly felt like he had been revived. His mind moved and loudly said, "That's right, of course I'm your little brother. Why are you staring at me?" The men all smiled at Gu Qingshan. "Ah, such a handsome young man. Do you want to become an ominous demon?" the Tower Master asked on behalf of everyone. Chapter 1378. The men had abandoned Yu Tiangue and turned to surround Gu Qingshan. You're an evil creature? Wow, who would have thought there would be such a handsome evil creature? Little bro, where do you work? Do you need anything? So you're an evil creature, that's great. Evil creatures are always full of bad ideas. How about you stop working and join us? That's right, we usually collect protection fees from everyone on the street, no one dares to interfere. That's right, little bro, when you're going to join the ominous demon tower, Big Bro will give you a street to manage, you'll be the prettiest guy on the street. What's the point of going to the street? You don't need to do this kind of menial work. Just bring your big sis and come visit my house every day, I'll make you some good food, the burly men said enthusiastically. All of them were around 2 meters tall, so when they surrounded Gu Qingshan, they completely blocked out the light. Standing in the darkness, Gu Qingshan's smile was a bit stiff, but she still couldn't say anything. Stop, 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 don't surround my little bro if you don't have anything to do. He's a proper hitman, Buttercup loudly called out. The burly men reluctantly dispersed, but their mouths did not stop. Ahaha, so you're an hitman, I was wondering why you look so strong. You're definitely an expert assassin, young and promising. That's right, bring Big Bro with you on the next mission, Big Bro will support you. Me too, I'll also go, I guarantee that you won't even need to do anything. That's right, as an hitman, you have to be careful. Don't worry, Big Bro will protect you. Buttercup couldn't stand it any longer and came to chase them away. I only wanted to report the situation to the Tower Master, there's no need for all of you to come. Now that there's nothing else, go back. She then told Yu Tiangue. And you, don't come to visit me without any reason next time, I can't accept a visit from your Wraith realm. Seeing this, Yu Tiangue immediately understood that he had poked a hornet's nest and nodded. Yes, 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 don't worry, I will. Little Butterfly pushed the group of burly men out one by one. All right, go go go, all of you go. The men smiled, patted Gu Qingshan's chests, then gave her a thumbs up before reluctantly leaving. Gu Qingshan bade farewell to them one by one. Yu Tiangue also hurriedly left. He practically used the speed at which he was fleeing, streaking across the night sky like a meteor before disappearing without a trace. The red brick house regained its peace. Gu Qingshan wiped the sweat off her forehead. This group of ferocious devils was too terrifying. He didn't even have the chance to open his mouth to speak. Seems like you're doing quite well in the ominous demon tower, Gu Qingshan sighed emotionally. Buttercup said with a headache, let me clarify, I'm actually just their teacher. They're both married? Gu Qingshan asked in surprise. If these people were married and still came to provoke Buttercup, then she couldn't just stand by and watch. Buttercup appeared a little troubled, but still explained. That's not it. They are all very special aberrations, and if they want offspring, they can do it themselves. But after I came, according to their own words, they yearn for love. Gu Qingshan was silent for a long time. This is a little powerful, he muttered to himself. It was already dawn, so Gu Qingshan was about to leave and return to the Hitman Guild. Buttercup pulled him back and told him, this matter has come to an end, you're safe for now. Keep in mind you need to hurry up and become a titled hitman, because there's only one chance, and it's getting closer and closer. What kind of chance is it exactly? Gu Qingshan curiously asked. I can't tell you right now, I've already signed a confidentiality contract. You'll know when the time comes, Buttercup replied. Gu Qingshan sighed, then sincerely said, all right, I'll do my best, Buttercup continued. I heard that the Hitman Guild occasionally has a few large-scale interworld missions. If you manage to encounter one, you definitely need to participate. It's very easy for you to advance, is that so? All right, I'll note that down. I'll look into it when I get back and accept it, Gu Qingshan replied. That's right, Buttercup nodded. I really need to put aside the Wraith Realm matters for now and focus on becoming a titled hitman. Gu Qingshan hesitated a bit and didn't say anything else. Put aside the Wraith Realm matters? No, it's not that simple. The envoys sent by the Wraith Realm to meet the City Lord were completely wiped out as soon as they left the City Lord's manor. This was the same as slapping the Wraith Realm's face in front of the entire Void City. Due to the lack of evidence and the threat of the ominous demons, Yu Tiangue appeared to have retreated, but in reality, he definitely wouldn't give up. He would continue to investigate in order to catch the culprit. Having fought against the Wraith Realm a few times, Gu Qingshan understood their style very well. Vengeful. They wouldn't stop until they reached their goal. Following this, if the Wraith Realm still suspects me, they would definitely act even more discreetly, even more resolutely, and even more unprepared. Fortunately, I've already passed this obstacle, so I'll have some time to increase my hitman rank. This kind of thing is not something I need to tell Buttercup. She's already done her best to help. The rest is up to me. Gu Qingshan thought for a bit, then smiled. Then I'll be leaving first. Go ahead, contact me if you need anything, Buttercup replied. At another location, Yu Tiangue flew out of Void City, leapt down from the tall city walls, and walked into a certain secluded forest. He took out a stick of incense, lit it, and stuck it in front of a large tree. He respectfully knelt down in front of the tree and spoke in a low voice. Sir, I've run into a bit of resistance from the ominous demon tower. A few moments later, a voice resounded from the tree. The ominous demon tower? Why would they be involved? Yu Tiangue explained what happened. The tree fell silent. A few moments later, the voice resounded again. Dragon King of Atrocity Jail? What a bold claim. Do you think this person might be the culprit? Yu Tiangue thought for a bit, then replied. My intuition tells me that it's not him, the voice asked. What do you mean? Yu Tiangue replied. This person is arrogant, hot-tempered, and easily angered. He would attack at the slightest disagreement, but because he's backed by Dai Nu, he acts like he's not afraid of anything, the voice asked. Then, you feel that there's no need to investigate him further. Yu Tiangue paused, then clenched his teeth. This subordinate feels that if he isn't the culprit, that would naturally be a good thing. But if the culprit truly is him, then he would be a very terrifying enemy. What do you mean? A seemingly simple person was able to kill the entire diplomatic group in just a few seconds, then perfectly avoid suspicion, not even giving me a chance to probe him. Such a person would definitely be a great threat to our Wraith Realm. The tree went silent for a few moments, then the voice resounded again. Your hypothesis is very interesting. How about this? You don't need to worry about this hitman. Perhaps he really isn't the culprit. Go and look for other clues first. Understood, Yu Tiangue replied. He didn't ask any further, stood up, slowly retreated, and slowly disappeared. The forest returned to silence. A few moments later, the voice resounded again. Which one of our hidden pawns in the Hitman Guild? Another voice resounded from the void of space. Sir, the Hitman Guild's pawns have died. What happened? Assassination missions always have risks. He just so happened to be countered by an opponent during one of the missions, so he died. The voice from the tree became stern. Tisk, didn't you send anyone else? I remember we've agreed that we need to place people in every organization in Void City. Sir, Poison Bee had only died a few days ago, so we're currently preparing a new person. His identity and other items are still being prepared, so we haven't made it in time. This was a reasonable explanation, so the Wraith Lord didn't say anything else. TSK, of all the times he died, he just had to die when we needed to use him. What about the Bounty Hunter Guild? Are our people still there? He asked. A moment of silence. The voice from before replied. They are. This one is one of our core pawns. He's very strong, and his position has also been promoted to titled rank. The Wraith Lord spoke with satisfaction. Very well, have him test that Dragon King of Atrocity Jail for me. If you notice anything amiss, immediately kill him. After that, I'll allow him to erase his identity and return to the Wraith Realm. Understood. Chapter 1379. Gu Qingshan returned to the Hitman Guild. All the staff members were looking at him with respect and awe in their eyes. News spread very quickly in Void City. When someone wanted to step on the Hitman Guild, he was able to put his sword against their neck in front of everyone, making them unable to move. Being able to do this was already quite an impressive feat, not to mention, those people were all killed in the end. Furthermore, this hitman also had a good relationship with the ominous Demon Tower. He was strong, had a good reputation, and was quite popular. Who wouldn't look up to him? Gu Qingshan's gaze swept through the reception room, but didn't see Qin. Most likely, her shift was over, so she went back to rest. Gu Qingshan returned to the lounge and opened his room door. The ocean, the sun, the blue sky, the small island. This was his personal resting area. Gu Qingshan stepped through the door, stepped on the fine sand of the beach, and closed the door behind him. He casually strolled along the shore. A gentle breeze blew past, calming one's spirit. Gu Qingshan recalled everything that had happened recently in his mind, then began to check his own situation. At Summer Lord Realm, even the war god Yui wouldn't be able to help him too much if he wanted to advance to the next realm. Star River Saint Realm was different from all the previous realms. It was very unique and required a process of accumulation. This advancement wasn't normal, it wasn't something that could be achieved overnight. Gu Qingshan made some calculations and found that if he wanted to advance, he would need to wait until his Dantian's ability to accumulate spirit energy had reached a higher level. That would require a lot of work, which he couldn't achieve for now. He didn't want to think about it anymore. Instead, he took out an identity token. This was an unsolvable hitman's ID card, which allowed him to read a lot of information. With a light touch of the ID card, a screen appeared in front of Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan casually tried it out and understood how to operate it. He didn't try to touch the highly classified information that required points right from the start, only looking at some common knowledge. For example, what an ominous demon was. The corresponding description appeared on the light screen. To this day, there is no definite answer as to why some ordinary individuals would undergo such demonization. We only know that when this phenomenon occurs, there is a chance that it will attract the attention of the various laws of the void, allowing certain individuals to become super-evolved mutated individuals. These are the ominous demons. Who holds the authority over Void City? The light screen explained. When Void City was first established, countless experts wanted to become the master of this city. After more than 100 years of sparring and competition, the strongest person emerged. Everyone was convinced of his strength, and he became the master of this city. The name of the city lord cannot be said or read, or it will disturb him. Apart from the city lord, the leaders of the various forces in Void City are all part of the city's power. Under the leadership of the city lord, all forces will jointly decide the future of Void City. What is a large-scale interworld quest? The screen of light explained. When an apocalypse that is especially destructive appears, many important worlds will begin to ask for help. The various organizations of Void City will then band together to issue a large-scale interworld mission to gather their forces to fight against the apocalypse and save the various worlds. For example, merchant organizations will provide backup resources to support the various worlds' wars, while combat-oriented organizations will issue large-scale combat missions. If the worlds are successfully saved, all saved worlds will pay generous rewards in return for Void City's efforts. Please pay attention to the following description. Large-scale interworld quests usually last for a very long time, ranging from a few dozen days to a few months, until the Allied army wins against the apocalypse, or completely fails. This time, Gu Qingshan understood. Void City was a city where countless monsters and races of the void gathered. It naturally had the strength to support the various worlds that were being invaded by the apocalypse, and it had to do so. Because the more worlds were destroyed, the weaker the world origin and laws within the space vortex would become. While the apocalypse would grow stronger during this process, no one was willing to see that. This was also the reason why as soon as Gu Qingshan became an unsolvable hitman, he had to sign a covenant to not arbitrarily destroy worlds. Apocalypse, Gu Qingshan muttered with a complicated expression. He opened the hitman's quest list, searched for a bit, and quickly found several large-scale interworld quests. However, he couldn't accept any of them. At this point, his ID card suddenly lit up. Someone was calling. When Gu Qingshan took a look, he saw that it was Crow. "What are you doing?" Crow asked. "Nothing, just staying in the resting area," Gu Qingshan replied. "Going for a drink? Maybe some breakfast?" Crow suggested. Gu Qingshan helplessly said, "We just drank yesterday, are we going to drink again today? Speaking of which, I have something to ask you, go ahead. Why can't I accept large-scale interworld quests?" About that. Large-scale missions against the apocalypse are very strict. Only those with sufficient strength and qualifications can accept them. How so? Take a look at the quest list. There's a selection location behind each large-scale mission. Only by participating in the selection and passing can you accept the mission. Also, you're currently only unsolvable, so it might be a bit difficult for you to accept these types of missions. Listening to him, Gu Qingshan turned his gaze towards the large-scale interworld missions. Sure enough, they all had different addresses. Some were at the Star Cloud Commerce, some were at the Holy Church of Splendor, while the last one was at the ominous Demon Tower. The ominous Demon Tower. Even if the unsolvable hitman's rank is a bit low, the people of the ominous Demon Tower would definitely let me pass. As Gu Qingshan was about to click on it, this large-scale interworld quest suddenly turned gray, no longer accepting any responses. Crow, why did one of the large-scale interworld quests turn gray? Gu Qingshan asked in confusion. After a bit of silence, Crow replied, "While these large-scale quests are being carried out, they would constantly recruit people to participate in order to ensure that they have enough fighting strength to face the apocalypse. Unless a certain situation occurs, they would turn gray." Gu Qingshan understood a bit and hesitantly asked, "You mean?" Crow replied, "Yes, the mission had completely failed. The apocalypse had destroyed those worlds and all living beings within them, including everyone who participated in the battle. There was no hope of victory, so they couldn't accept any more missions. What should we do in this situation?" Gu Qingshan asked. "The big shots of the various organizations and the strongest monsters within the void will act. It would be great if they succeeded, but if even they couldn't, they would have no choice but to create a new map of the void and announce it to all worlds, telling everyone to avoid the destroyed areas." For a while, both of them fell silent. "Crow, I want to try accepting a large-scale interworld quest," Gu Qingshan muttered. A series of noises could be heard from Crow's side. Apparently he was also operating the quest list. A few moments later, his voice resounded again. "I suggest that you accept the second mission on the 7th row. This mission had only been released for 2 days, so you won't have to face an intense final battle as soon as you enter. Furthermore, the selection point for this mission is located in our guild, so the person in charge of the selection would have to give our Hitman Guild a bit of face, so it would be easier for you to pass." Gu Qingshan's gaze moved, glancing at the mission again. Sure enough, it was just as Crow said. "All right, I'll be participating in the selection now. See you later," Gu Qingshan said. "See you later," Crow replied. The two of them hung up. Gu Qingshan silently thought for a while. This type of mission would take anywhere from a dozen days to a few months. But Buttercup wanted me to become a titled hitman within a month. Seems like I'll have to hurry. He quickly left the lounge and returned to the Hitman Guild's lobby. "Hello, I want to accept the number 337 mission," he told a staff member in charge of the mission. "It's a large-scale interworld mission, so you'll need to go through the selection. Come with me." The staff member led him into a hallway, then pointed at the packed professionists in front of him. "I've already arranged a number for you. When your codename is called, you can enter. There will be a special selection." "All right, thank you," Gu Qingshan replied. He turned his gaze forward. The line was so long that he couldn't see the end of it. All of them were members of various organizations of Void City. At the end of the line was a small door where several selectors were inspecting those who wanted to accept the mission one by one. Gu Qingshan waited for a while. After about 20 minutes, one person came out, and then another person went in. Such a long line, how long would I have to wait in it? Gu Qingshan returned to the lobby, found the staff member from before, and whispered, "Is there a way to not have to wait in the queue?" The staff member also whispered, "According to the rules, titled combatants can directly enter, but there's also another situation, which is if you have some sort of unique ability and believe that you'll be able to convince the selectors, you can also directly enter. This rule is also meant to save everyone's time." Gu Qingshan fell into thought for a second. He quickly pulled up the War God UI, set his title to the Most Flirtatious Man tab, then quickly headed towards the selection point. Mobile version of the fastest updated website. Chapter 1380. When Gu Qingshan went to participate in the selection, Crow was sitting blankly in his room. "This guy," he muttered. "Unsolvable rank hitmen basically can't handle large-scale interworld missions, so they're rarely chosen. He might actually be a possibility." Crow poured himself a glass of liquor, raised it up, and looked at the overhead light. The amber color of the liquor was exceptionally mesmerizing under the illumination of the light. "Speaking of which, if it weren't for his reminder last time, I would have gone into the Void Storm Cavern to check on Poison Bee's death. That would have most likely run into that thing, I'm afraid." Crow swirled the glass, recalling what happened in the City Lord's manor. "As soon as I said that, that fiend placed his sword against my neck. Ever since my partner died in the middle of a mission 5 years ago, how long has it been since I've had someone this tacit?" Crow downed the entire glass in one gulp and stood up. "Large-scale interworld missions, the mortality rate is too high. It took me so much effort to find a drinking buddy, and since I have nothing better to do, I might as well go have some fun as well." He tied the rapier to his waist and walked out of his lounge. Along the way, Crow waved at the staff member. One of them ran forward and asked, "Sir Kurt Death Silver Crow, what are your orders?" "The hitman codenamed Dragon King of Atrocity Jail, did he go to participate in the selection for the number 337 large-scale interworld mission?" Crow asked. "Yes, sir," the staff member replied. Crow smiled, then said, "I'll go take a look. It would save me a lot of trouble if he was fooled, sir." He's still queuing? That makes sense, there are a lot of people today. No, he had just passed the selection and warped away. What? Crow exclaimed in disbelief. He quickly walked to the hallway and looked inside, only to see that it was filled with people. The queue was so long that he couldn't even see the end of the examination room. Crow couldn't help but ask, "The selection is a very meticulous process, it shouldn't have been that quick. Didn't he queue up?" "That's right, he didn't even stay for a minute before he passed." The staff member was also in disbelief. Crow turned on his ID card and checked the number 337 mission. As a titled hitman, he had the authority to check the list of candidates for the large-scale interworld mission. The moment he opened the name list, he saw the demon's codename. Dragon King of Atrocity Jail. Devils hid their true names, so their codenames were just their titles. Crow looked at the name and fell silent. A few moments later, he strode towards the selection room, pushed the door open, and walked in. The 3 powerful professionals had just finished their assessment and were about to call for the next one. When Crow entered, the 3 of them all turned to look at him. Someone greeted, "So it's the Kurt Death Silver Crow. What's the matter?" "Our guild has a hitman with the codename Dragon King of Atrocity Jail. Did you get him?" Crow asked. "Yes, it is," one of the examiners confirmed. "What did you test him on?" Crow pursued. The moment he asked this question, the 3 selectors were stunned. They were all deep in thought. "That's not right," one of the selectors mumbled. I don't think it's right either. How did he pass the selection? Another examiner asked in confusion. We all have work records. Why don't you take a look and find out? The third selector said. With a wave of his hand, he activated a certain spell in the room. A screen of light slowly manifested in the void of space. The four of them looked at the screen. It was a replay of the selection. The guy with the codename Dragon King of Atrocity Jail suddenly appeared in the screen. He entered the room, stood in front of the three examiners, and said, I'm very impressive and qualified to participate in this mission, so don't waste time and let me pass. Crow's eyebrows twitched. Saying such a thing in front of three powerful professionists, isn't that the same as seeking death? Following that, an unbelievable sight occurred. Hearing him, the three examiners all nodded in agreement. That makes sense. That makes sense. One of the examiners directly gave him a certificate and said, You've passed, you can accept the mission now, thank you. Saying so, the evil creature turned around and left. The screen ended there. The three examiners froze. Does that count as passing? One of them asked in a low voice. He used his own abilities to make us agree, so he passed, the other person sighed. Crow stayed silent for a bit, then suddenly laughed. Ah ha 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 ha, interesting, very interesting. I'll accept this mission as well. He turned around, left the room, and headed towards the warp gate. At the same time, at another location, the Bounty Hunter Guild. In a certain room, a hunter was staring at the talisman in his hand. Who would have thought that they would use me? Sir Wraith Lord sure is willing to spend a lot. He appeared contemplative. Suddenly, another talisman appeared out of thin air and hovered in front of him. A low voice resounded. He accepted the number 337 mission. After saying so, the talisman began to burn and quickly turned to ash. The hunter pondered for a bit. The number 337 mission seems to be a large-scale interworld mission. A mere unsolvable rank evil creature actually dared to accept such a mission. According to our intelligence, this person is a prideful and arrogant individual. But if Elder Dew really was killed by him, then I really have to be careful. The hunter appeared a bit hesitant. He grabbed his weapon, pushed the door open, and headed towards the quest hall. Fine for me, being able to return to the Wraith Realm is good news. If there's even the slightest anomaly, I'll kill you. The apocalypse. The gloom forest world. A streak of light descended from the sky. Boom. A deep crater was formed on the ground. Guqing Shan walked out from it. Ah, this place must be very far away from Void City. He endured the dizziness and lightly rubbed his temples. The closer the teleportation, the more stable it would be. If the distance was very far, even powerful professionists would feel uncomfortable, perhaps even being unable to precisely control the power of the teleportation would cause damage on the other side. Guqing Shan observed his surroundings. This was a mountain forest, and the place where he appeared was near a small stream. His surroundings were filled with lush greenery. Guqing Shan walked up to the stream, casually scooped up some water, and took a sip. Clear and sweet. Sure enough, the apocalypse here has only just begun, so it naturally hasn't been damaged yet. Guqing Shan released his powerful inner sight to scan his surroundings for several 10,000 miles. Very quickly, he discovered a human village in the southwest direction. Guqing Shan's figure flashed and activated ground shrink. He directly appeared in front of the village. Silence. There was no one here. A line of glowing text suddenly appeared on the war god UI frowny face. The end of the sandstorm has sensed you. The first destruction has begun. Instantly, a gust of yellow sand was carried by the wind from the village. Guqing Shan didn't move. The sandstorm gathered about 10 meters in front of him, manifesting as a warrior wielding a large shield and spear. Why aren't you running? Don't you know that once you're caught by this sandstorm, you'll fall into eternal despair? The warrior looked at Guqing Shan and doubtfully asked. As Guqing Shan was about to answer, the warrior had already rushed forward. A cold gleam flashed. Shah! The warrior was instantly cut in half, scattered into the sandstorm, and slowly faded away. His long sigh resounded from the void of space. It's useless, you'll eventually lose, and being assimilated by the apocalypse is only a matter of time. Gu Qingshan shook his head. That's not necessarily true, I'm actually quite familiar with the apocalypse. He let go of the Chao Yin sword, letting it disappear into the void of space, then took out the earth sword. How do we fight? The earth sword's mountainous heavy voice resounded. Gu Qingshan thought for a bit, then replied, There's no one left in this village, so we'll have to make it harmless. He raised the earth sword up high and reminded it. Pay attention to your strength, I've already signed a covenant to not destroy this world, the earth sword replied. Are you kidding me? Veterans like us always pay attention to strength and technique, a youngster like you. Tisk. Gu Qingshan couldn't be bothered with it, gripped the hilt of his sword tightly and swung it down. A vast and majestic sword projection descended, engulfing the entire village. Boom! The sky fell and the earth cracked. Mobile version of the fastest updated website. Chapter 1381. Up ahead. The village had been completely erased from the surface of the earth. Gu Qingshan sheathed his sword and stood still. According to the known information, a sealed-class apocalypse had broken out in the Gloom Galaxy. A large number of combatants had now been stationed in the various worlds of this galaxy, preparing to either destroy or seal this apocalypse. He took out his ID card and lightly pressed it. A flash of light emerged from the ID card and manifested into text in the air. Frowny face hitman codenamed Dragon King of Atrocity Jail. Your mission is to search the Gloom Forest world and kill the monsters inside if you encounter an apocalypse. This is a free-for-all mission, please do your best to kill the monsters. That doesn't sound too hard. But if I want to rely on this mission to increase my rank, I'll need to perform well. Gu Qingshan silently thought, raised his hand, and clenched it. Blessings of the past worlds. This was the acknowledgement he received, as well as his method of communicating with the world. With this method, the world should be able to sense him, communicate with him, and fight against the apocalypse together with him. Gu Qingshan silently waited. A few moments later, no supernatural phenomena occurred, nor did he hear any whispers. While Gu Qingshan was feeling surprised, his expression abruptly changed. A surge of surging yellow sand rose from the ground in front of them, riding the strong winds and forming a crazy sandstorm. In the blink of an eye, the intense wind had arrived and completely enveloped him. Layers upon layers of sand obscured the sky, causing Gu Qingshan to feel his surroundings turning dark. What exactly is going on? I was clearly trying to summon the world spirit, so why did this apocalypse come instead of the world spirit? He stood in the middle of the sandstorm, wielding his sword without moving. A second later, lines of glowing text appeared on the war god UI. Frowny face. The UI has not sensed the existence of the world spirit, concluded. The world spirit has perished. Following this, each of your summons will trigger the apocalypse's attack. The end of the sandstorm has sensed you. The second destruction has begun. Gu Qingshan was a bit surprised, then felt a chill in his heart. This isn't right. According to the mission report, this was a large-scale sealed apocalypse. A sealed-class apocalypse was an apocalypse that living beings could resist, destroy, or seal away. How could an apocalypse of this level wipe out the will of the entire world? Many worlds destroyed by the apocalypse would still leave behind remnant wills. Speaking of which, Gu Qingshan had never seen an apocalypse that could directly erase the will of a world. It seemed like a shadow was quietly spreading in his heart. But now, he had to get through this obstacle before him first. Gu Qingshan took a deep breath. Holding the twin swords heaven and earth with both hands, she stood in the middle of the sandstorm and waited quietly. The next second, amidst the sandstorm, a portion of the sand gathered and turned into a fully armored knight riding on a warhorse. I have awakened from the depths of the apocalypse. bringing a soul with me into a deep slumber of nothingness, the knight said blankly. Gu Qingshan held her sword without moving, quietly feeling the energy waves coming from her opponent's body. Compared to the soldier from before, this knight's aura was several times stronger. Gu Qingshan's eyes flickered a bit and asked, "Are you alive or dead?" The knight pointed his sword at Gu Qingshan and replied, "When the apocalypse has stripped you of everything, you will realize that life and death are nothing but laughable lies, just like the defense you've been relying on." Following his explanation, Gu Qingshan abruptly looked down, only to see that the assassin leather armor she was wearing had instantly turned into a thin layer of sand that scattered with the wind. What? Gu Qingshan was shocked. This leather armor was a high-grade assassin armor. With its defense, she would be able to focus on killing in battle. However, with just a single sentence from the other party, the leather armor turned into sand and disappeared. No, this level of power is definitely not a sealed-class apocalypse. Gu Qingshan's heart felt heavy. In the void of space, a line of glowing text quickly scrolled past the war god Ui. Frowny face, the end of the sandstorm has corroded one of your defensive equipment. Attention, you have lost your defensive equipment. The battle has begun. The knight spurred his horse forward and slowly sped up. Almost in the blink of an eye, his charging speed had increased. The knight wielded his sword and followed the horse's speed, turning into a blurred image as he charged straight at Gu Qingshan. It was too fast, I couldn't even see it clearly. Gu Qingshan's gaze became sharp, stepped forward, and raised her sword to meet the knight. The knight was fast, but Gu Qingshan's sword was faster. The two swords clashed. Ki! With an ear-splitting noise, the earth sword blocked the knight's sword. Retreat! With a shout, Gu Qingshan sent both the man and his horse flying into the air. Offense and defense had switched positions. In that split second, Gu Qingshan charged forward like a shadow. The heaven sword in her other hand gave off a cold gleam. The knight couldn't help but wield his sword with both hands to block Gu Qingshan's first strike. The two swords clashed again. Without waiting for the knight to react, a second strike that was even more powerful, and a third strike. While it took a long time to describe, the entire process happened in the blink of an eye. All swordsmanship, all strategies, nothing could compare to the word fast. Each strike was faster and more powerful than the last. In the blink of an eye, 3 consecutive strikes had slashed the knight and his horse to the ground. Boom! The enemy crashed into the ground. The horse neighed, turned into sandstorm, and disappeared without a trace. The knight struggled to stand up, staring at Gu Qingshan. "What kind of swordsmanship was that?" he asked. "Parrying swordsmanship, heaven interception," Gu Qingshan replied. "Good swordsmanship," the knight praised. "Of course it's a good swordsmanship. If you're willing to turn your back on the apocalypse, I'll teach you," Gu Qingshan replied. The knight fell silent. His body was slowly peeled off into pieces of sand, falling into the wind. "What exactly are you?" Gu Qingshan asked in a low voice. The knight didn't answer him, only muttering in a low voice, "Life, how laughable!" He completely scattered into the sandstorm, disappearing from Gu Qingshan's sight. The sandstorm around Gu Qingshan slowly stopped. A line of glowing text appeared from the void of space. Frowny face, the apocalypse's second attempt to destroy you has failed. Gu Qingshan was a bit confused and couldn't help but ask, "What kind of apocalypse is this?" The war god Ui replied, "Insufficient information, we only know that it's a sandstorm-type apocalypse, currently similar to sandstorms and currently? Please explain clearly." The sandstorm's end is an unsolvable apocalypse, but it has the ability to grow. No one knows how far it will grow. Unsolvable. Grow. Gu Qingshan's heart sank. This was different from Void City's assessment. Perhaps because it had only just come into contact with this apocalypse, it was still very easy to fight against, which was why Void City deemed it to be a sealed apocalypse. In truth, an apocalypse wasn't a level 4 apocalypse. because very few people knew about the Level 4 unknowable apocalypse. Most people had never even seen one before. Normally speaking, the 3 levels of apocalypse represented the majority of apocalypses that had ever appeared. Against a sealed apocalypse, people could still try to win against it. Against an unsolvable apocalypse, the only thing they could do was to save as many lives and resources as possible, fighting while retreating to find a way to escape. Unlivable apocalypse in history, no one had ever survived such an apocalypse. This time, it was already an unsolvable apocalypse that had the ability to grow. This made one's heart tighten. And the will of this world had already been erased. Gu Qingshan's expression was grim as his thoughts churned. All of a sudden, he noticed something and hurriedly took out his ID card. A screen of light appeared from the ID card and turned into the latest information. Frowny face, attention all mission participants. The Gloom Galaxy's apocalypse has been evaluated once again, confirmed to be unsolvable from sealed. All mission details have been changed. Please click your ID card to view your mission. Gu Qingshan tapped his ID card. Lines of quests had already appeared for him. Hitman codenamed Dragon King of Atrocity Jail, please hurry to Gloom Flame Village, approximately 26,000 kilometers north of here, as soon as possible and participate in the village's defense. Gu Qingshan looked through it again and again, then put his ID card away. His mood was a bit heavy. The free combat mission had been changed to a village's defense. The apocalypse is growing too quickly, and there's too little information, so I still don't know how to deal with it. Will it become an unlivable apocalypse? Gu Qingshan looked towards the north and stayed silent for a few moments. Unsolvable. It's impossible to do anything about it. I wonder how many people would be able to survive this unsolvable apocalypse. Gu Qingshan thought for a bit, then took out a colorful rooster from his chest pocket. Chapter 1382. As he pulled on its comb, the colorful rooster came to life. It spread its wings and stretched its back, then looked at Gu Qingshan. What is it? I'm sleeping right now, can't you brat calm down a bit? The rooster impatiently complained. Gu Qingshan smiled and replied, Nothing much, I just wanted to give you a bit of soul points, but it seems like you don't need it right now. Saying so, he acted like he was about to put the colorful rooster away. The colorful rooster hurriedly flapped its wings and smiled apologetically. Young master! My young master! If you need anything, just tell me, no need to give me soul points, you're too polite. Gu Qingshan glanced at his soul points value. Not only did I obtain 300 million soul points from killing the judge of living beings' fate. In truth, in the Great Tomb, to fight against an elemental giant from the illusion of the apocalypse, I once transformed into the Orange Sovereign and ate a lot of salted fish. Each of those salted fish was the essence of the elemental giant's power, which was converted into pure soul points by Orange Sovereign transformation. Although a bit was used up, the total amount of soul points was still around 300 million. The more money one has, the more generous one is. Gu Qingshan directly gave the rooster 100,000 soul points. Being nourished by the soul points, the rooster's entire body became spirited. It spoke in high spirits. Brother, you're truly a good friend. From today onwards, your business is this great chicken's business, Gu Qingshan asked. I want to know information about this world, the rooster hesitantly replied. I can only tell you information that's related to you. That's fine, please tell me, Gu Qingshan replied. The rooster continued. Your life is in danger. Not only is the apocalypse slowly approaching, but there is also an enemy hiding in the shadows who will arrive in the Gloom Galaxy within 10 seconds. He will think of a way to kill you. You must be careful. That Wraith has an honorable identity, a hidden pawn of the Wraith realm in Void City. Just like the apocalypse, he covets your life. After saying so, the rooster turned back into a statue and stopped moving. Gu Qingshan slowly put the statue away. They'll arrive in 10 seconds, which means the Wraith realm has also arrived, he muttered. Suddenly, A shooting star appeared in the sky. The meteor was heading straight for Gu Qingshan. Bang! The meteor created a deep pit in the ground in front of Gu Qingshan. A bewitchingly beautiful man walked out from the pit. He had a rapier on his waist and said with a look of disdain, "Can't this portal be improved a little?" Direct death, Silver Crow. Immediately after, another person leaped out of the deep pit and said, "Come on, this kind of teleportation is just like this. It hasn't been improved for hundreds of years." It was a smiling man wearing a loose white robe and holding a white fan in his hand. Gu Qingshan looked at the two of them. It would arrive in 10 seconds. Evil spirit. A dignified identity. The rooster said, "That evil ghost." So it seemed that one of these two people was the evil ghost's person. Was it the curt death Silver Crow or the unknown person? While thinking, Gu Qingshan showed a surprised expression and asked, "Crow, why are you here?" Crow lazily replied, "It's been a long time since I've accepted a large-scale interworld mission, so I came to take a look and get some exercise." Gu Qingshan turned to the person next to him and asked, "So that's why, this person next to you?" Crow replied. "He's from the Bounty Hunter Guild, also a titled rank combatant. He came with me." The man then clasped his fist towards Gu Qingshan. "Hello, I'm White Eagle, Gong Wu of the Bounty Hunter Guild. Who are you?" Gu Qingshan ignored him and asked Crow instead, "What's your mission?" Crow took out his ID card, glanced at it, then replied, "I'm going to reinforce the nearest location. There's a human gathering point called Gloom Flame Town in the north." "Very well, let's go," Gu Qingshan said. All right." Crow followed Gu Qingshan and turned to leave. Neither of them looked at the bounty hunter again. White Eagle Agong Wu remained where he was. He hesitated for a second, then abruptly shouted in anger, "Bastard, as a low-level hitman, you dare to look down on me like that? I'll make you pay. If this Dragon King of Atrocity Jail is weak, then I'll just kill him. On the other hand, if he's too strong for me to handle, then I might very well be the one who killed Elder Du at that time. I'll have to contact the wretched lord right away." White Eagle Agong Wu waved the white fan in his hand, preparing to unleash a spell. At the same time, Crow and Gu Qingshan both stopped. This bounty hunter must be sick in the head. Why would he take our guild's unsolvable hitman so seriously? Crow muttered, drew his rapier, and charged forward. Gu Qingshan didn't say anything. He silently watched as Crow faced off against the titled hunter. A titled hitman and a titled hunter, which one is the Wraith's man here? Seeing Crow approaching, White Eagle Gong Wu retracted his killing intent. "That's not my goal. And this person isn't weak at all. If I were to fight him and end up getting hurt, it wouldn't be worth it." White Eagle Agong Wu waved his fan for a bit, exchanged a few blows with Crow, then retreated. "Crow, I won't fight you, but keep in mind, you can protect him for now, but not forever," White Eagle Agong Wu threatened. His gaze fell onto Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan remained expressionless. "This Crow, I've had a few drinks with him and caused some trouble, so we're quite familiar with each other. If Crow is a Wraith's man, why would he put on an act in the City Lord's manor? But if I think about it from another perspective, if the Wraith realm really was putting on an act in the City Lord's manor, wouldn't I have ruined their plan? Crow has seen me use my sword, so he knows that my sword counters the Wraith's causality law. If that's the case, if he really is a Wraith's man, he would have a reason to want to kill me. But just now, when White Eagle Agong Wu wanted to fight me, he charged forward. Was he purposely putting on an act to gain trust, or was he actually trying to stop me? Gu Qingshan tried to recall, but couldn't come to a conclusion just yet. As for the titled rank combatant from the Bounty Hunter Guild, he could also be someone from the Wraith realm. This is going to be troublesome. All of a sudden, all 3 ID cards lit up at the same time. A line of identical notifications appeared from each ID card and appeared in the void of space. Frowny face emergency. Gloom Flame Town is about to fall, please head there immediately. After reading through them, Crow put his ID card away and told Gu Qingshan, They're waiting for reinforcements over there, seems like we'll have to hurry. Gu Qingshan's thoughts quickly turned. This time, the apocalypse is unsolvable, and it's still rapidly growing. Where would I have the time to slowly distinguish between real and fake wraith? I have to confirm the real one right away, once and for all. Gu Qingshan's gaze passed through Crow and fell onto White Eagle Gong Wu. I'll take a gamble. I'll take a gamble that I didn't misjudge Crow. With that in mind, Gu Qingshan took out a bit of hair from his inventory bag and silently held it in his hand. He said, Crow, you leave first, I have something to discuss with this White Eagle Gong Wu. White Eagle Gong Wu froze. Crow looked at him suspiciously and asked, Do you know him? There's something I need to discuss with him in private. After I'm done with him, I'll come find you. Gu Qingshan gave him a reassuring look. Crow hesitated briefly, then said, All right, then I'll go first. If there's anything, use the Hitman ID card to contact me. Gu Qingshan replied. Crow glanced at him again, then leapt up and flew into the sky, slowly disappearing. Only Gu Qingshan and White Eagle Gong Wu remained. White Eagle Gong Wu's expression was complicated, but his killing intent was gradually increasing. What does a mere unsolvable hitman have to say to me? He waved his white fan and muttered. Gu Qingshan's presence changed as he spoke in a low voice. White Eagle Gong Wu, I know you're one of us. You have your mission, I have my own, so who exactly was the one who messed up this mess and had you come to provoke me? White Eagle Gong Wu froze. What are you talking about? Since when did I become a member of your Hitman Guild? He couldn't help but ask. Gu Qingshan appeared irritated and slowly changed his appearance. There must be a mistake somewhere. He arrogantly looked at White Eagle Gong Wu. How did you do your job to provoke me? Looking at him, White Eagle Gong Wu froze. Who exactly are you? I don't know you. White Eagle Gong Wu acted like he didn't know. The other party's appearance wasn't enough to convince him. He immediately formed a hand seal and carefully sensed the other party's aura. There were no issues. In fact, the small seal in his hand that proved his identity was indeed a Wraith Might seal. White Eagle Gong Wu was extremely shocked. Song Wuzhang was the son of a Wraith Lord. That Wraith Lord was in charge of the war against the Eternal Abyss, and so was Song Wuzhang. While I belong to another Wraith Lord. Both Wraith Lords have their own secrets, so it's possible that they didn't know about the other party's arrangements. Could there really be a mistake? With how sharp of a mind Gu Qingshan was, she immediately understood what was going on from the other party's expression. As soon as the other party's killing intent dissipated a bit, she understood. Imitating Song Wuzhang's expression, he angrily shouted, My personal plot of land. Yama Heavenly Realm had a large amount of resources stolen, that person had fled to Void City, so I came here myself to establish a relationship with the ominous Demon Tower, then make a name for myself in Void City. White Eagle Gong Wu silently listened and swallowed his saliva. Indeed, the Yama Heavenly Realm was Hero Tsang's personal plot of land. The Samsara's secrets were known only to those of the Wraith Realm. He couldn't possibly be a fake. While he was thinking that, Song Wuzhang glared at him and sternly declared, Stop pretending, Elder Du's matter has nothing to do with me, why would I kill my own people? You fools, damn it, what are you subordinates doing? This won't do. The other party knows everything. Song Wu no, Sertsong Wraith Might ha, why is it you? White Eagle Gong Wu muttered and knelt down to greet him. Chapter 1383. White Eagle Gong Wu knelt on the ground and couldn't help but silently sigh. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! Song Wuzhang was still angrily cursing in front of him. He appeared to be furious and couldn't help but shout, Do you people even have a brain? If I hadn't seen the list of hidden members before coming here, I might have had to fight you again. He abruptly walked in front of White Eagle Gong Wu, lowered his head and asked, Whether you kill me or I kill you, this will become the laughing stock of the entire Wraith Realm, do you understand? White Eagle Gong Wu naturally understood. After making such a huge mistake, heroic Lord Tsang would naturally be angry. But this has nothing to do with me, this is the Wraith Lord's arrangement. But can I say that out loud? Bastard, I've lost all my face! Song Wuzhang was still shouting. His spittle was all over White Eagle Gong Wu's face. White Eagle Gong Wu said nothing and kept his mouth shut. I can only hope that the heroic lord will quickly calm down and let this matter pass. All of a sudden, his expression changed. Perhaps Song Wuzhang was extremely angry. He clenched his fist and threw it at him. However, if you take a closer look, you'll notice that this punch didn't have any force behind it. Heroic Lord didn't use any force, nor did he use any technique. White Eagle Gong Wu silently relaxed. Seems like Heroic Lord still knows his limits and only wanted to vent his anger. Just let me punch him, it's not like I'll die. This was White Eagle Gong Wu's final thought. A second later, all of his thoughts were shattered. He knelt on the ground in a daze, unable to move. Ethereal, a grand mountain. Gu Qingshan pulled his fist back, his gaze becoming sharp. For the next 10 breaths worth of time, the other party would remain like an idiot, unable to move. He placed his hand on White Eagle Gong Wu's head and used soul reading. Very quickly, the entire situation became clear. So the Wraith Realm sent this person to probe me. If they found out that I'm suspicious, they would immediately kill me. Gu Qingshan fell into thought. Although I've restrained this person, killing him isn't a good choice. If the Wraith Realm sent someone to probe me, wouldn't I be telling them that I'm definitely suspicious? I have no choice but to kill him. When they contact the Wraith Realm again, they will find out that I'm not Song Wuzhang. They still had to be killed. Gu Qingshan drew her sword, but hesitated. The Devil King Warden Rod doesn't have a way to completely erase the other party's soul. After this person's soul disappears, there will still be a bit of light left in the chaos. The Wraith Realm's experts are life talismans and immortal arts, so they have a way to summon a soul back to life with just a bit of light. By then, he would still be exposed. He couldn't kill him, but he couldn't not kill him either. What should he do? Time passed slowly. 1 breath. 2 breaths. Gu Qingshan finally made her decision. Kill. Not only did they have to kill him, but they also had to conceal it well. The Wraith Realm had a strict hierarchy and strict discipline. Anyone who failed to complete a mission would be punished severely. When Song Wuzhang's servant failed to kill me, Song Wuzhang didn't resurrect him. On one hand, the price might be too great, but on the other hand, the Wraith Realm believed that those who failed weren't worth saving. If the Wraith Realm were to resurrect this person, the first piece of information they needed to know must be that this person failed the mission due to his own mistake. Thinking of this, Gu Qingshan slowly raised her hand and clenched it tightly. Blessing of the past worlds. This world's spirit had already faded away, so once Gu Qingshan tried to summon it, it would immediately summon the apocalypse. Instantly, a sandstorm was kicked up. Layers upon layers of yellow sand surrounded Gu Qingshan and the kneeling White Eagle Gong Wu, quickly circling around them. 5 breaths worth of time later, the yellow sand manifested into a warrior wielding a spear and shield, as well as a caster. They both turned to him, about to speak. Gu Qingshan impatiently said, "Destruction is destruction, can't you cut the crap? I'm in a hurry." He glanced at the combat notification in the void of space. A newcomer has come into contact with this apocalypse for the first time, so the difficulty of your third destruction has been lowered. The battle is about to begin, please prepare yourself. In front of him, the warrior and caster exchanged glances and spoke in unison. As you wish. The warrior rushed forward. The caster began to chant an incantation. Gu Qingshan took a few steps back. He kept retreating until he was a few dozen meters behind White Eagle Gong Wu. His entire body disappeared into the white fog without a trace. World Technique, Fog Realm Descent. Gu Qingshan left. White Eagle Gong Wu blankly knelt where he was, his mind completely blank. A second later, the spear and the spell arrived at the same time. White Eagle Gong Wu died in a state where he could not think or feel fear. At another location, Gu Qing Shan stood in front of the stream where he came from before, silently waiting. A few moments later, a sandstorm suddenly appeared and enveloped him again. A warrior wielding a spear and shield stood in front of a caster, coldly staring at him. Sure enough, teleporting away can't avoid the apocalypse's attack, Gu Qing Shan muttered. His gaze fell onto the warrior's spear. The spear was covered in blood. You abandoned your comrade and ran away, now it's your turn, the caster spoke. Gu Qing Shan smiled. He sincerely said, That wasn't my comrade, but you must have worked hard just now. Very well, I'll send you off. 4 swords appeared from the void of space behind him, then disappeared in an instant. They were flying around the sandstorm at an extreme speed. Within the sandstorm, another kind of wind silently manifested. The sword-infused wind rose. Sword array, Tai. A few moments later, Gu Qing Shan stood several thousand miles away, releasing his inner sight to scan where White Eagle Gong Wu was. He saw White Eagle Gong Wu's corpse. Gong Wu's pure white fan, as well as all of his belongings, were still on his body. The apocalypse wouldn't be interested in these things. Gu Qing Shan naturally wouldn't take them. The Wraith realm had countless treasures and methods, so it would be bad if they were recorded. He didn't make a mistake on such a minor detail and directly left. This had already taken quite a bit of time. Gu Qing Shan took to the sky, doing everything he could to chase after Crow. Flying, without stopping, coupled with using ground shrink again and again, he finally arrived at Gloom Flame Town. Gu Qing Shan descended from the sky and stood next to Crow. I'm late, Gu Qing Shan said apologetically. Crow shook his head, saying, I arrived earlier than you, but it's still useless. There were originally 2 squads of professionists stationed here. I thought they would at least be able to hold on until I arrived, but it seems I was wrong. In front of them, the entire town had already been destroyed. Various traces of battle had yet to fade away. Intense magical fluctuations still lingered in the air. The ground was filled with craters left behind by large-scale weapons. More than half of the town's defensive walls had collapsed. Scarlet blood stains were everywhere. Complete silence. There were no living people. Flames raged through the entire town. Seeing this apocalyptic scene, both of them felt heavy. Gu Qing Shan sighed and said, This apocalypse is most likely going to be very powerful, Crow agreed. Indeed, it's been a very long time since I've seen an apocalypse like this. Both you and I might die. What do we do now? Gu Qing Shan asked. This was the first time he had participated in this type of mission, so he wanted to know what to do. Crow calmly replied, Void City must be extremely busy right now, so we'll just wait here for them to issue a new mission. Right, since you're alone and haven't experienced anything like this before, don't separate from me, that way we can at least take care of each other. Gu Qing Shan glanced at Crow without anyone noticing. This guy looks like he doesn't care about the world, but he actually knows how to take care of others. Crow is a titled hitman, Zhang Young-ho is a hitman, and Yi Fei Li is a man-killer fiend. Why are all the people around me in this line of work? Could it be that the laws of reality are truly watching over me? Regardless, Crow is strong, and he's a decent person. With that in mind, Gu Qing Shan couldn't help but ask. Crow, I have something to tell you. What is it? Crow asked. I have a secret organization. Are you interested in joining? Gu Qing Shan asked. Crow curiously asked, What organization? Gu Qing Shan replied, I haven't thought of anything yet. Crow felt a bit bored and lazily replied, If you haven't thought of anything yet, why are you telling me? Let's talk about it when you do, Gu Qing Shan explained. No, I mean my organization is called, I haven't thought of anything yet, Crow. He thought for a bit then said, That's fine, can I be a boss? I'm sorry, but boss already has someone, it's you? No, what I mean is, we have a person called Boss. What kind of organization is this? Chapter 1384. In front of the ruined town, Guqing Shan and Crow were talking. Suddenly, their ID cards vibrated at the same time. Attention please. The situation is urgent, requesting Kurt Death Silver Crow and Dragon King of Atrocity Jail to head to the nearest Blue Mountain City to help stop the Apocalypse's invasion. Guqing Shan and Crow exchanged glances. Crow drew his rapier and said, "This town, I'll do a decontamination." Sparks of flame drifted around the rapier, then gathered at the tip of the rapier as Crow lightly tapped it, turning into a flaming bird that flew forward. The flaming bird landed in the middle of the town like a meteor, then vanished without a trace. A moment of silence. Boom! With an intense explosion, a pillar of flame that enveloped the entire town reached all the way to the sky. Intense winds blew in every direction, snapping many large trees in the process. Guqing Shan used her hand to shield herself, ignoring the intense wind that blew against her body as she looked at the intense flames. "It's useless, I've already done this to a village before, but when the apocalypse is supposed to appear, it will still appear," Guqing Shan replied. Crow sheathed his rapier and pondered. "If what you're saying is true, then the Vanguard team didn't understand this apocalypse at all. What a bunch of idiots," Guqing Shan sighed. "This is a bit strange. I've also run into several apocalypses, but I still don't understand what's going on." The flames scattered. The entire town was flattened. Crow stood in front of the ruins, pondering. "Speaking of which, I haven't run into an apocalypse since I arrived in this world. In fact, I've accepted many missions to fight against apocalypses over the years. It would be great if I could see what's going on." As soon as he said so, countless grains of sand suddenly rose from the ruins of the town, rising into the air. In an instant, a storm that swept across the entire area abruptly manifested. It swung the sand around, obscuring the sky, and directly trapping Guqing Shan and Crow in the middle. The two of them were shocked. "The apocalypse you wanted has arrived," Guqing Shan said. "I only said a few words." Crow drew his sword again and observed the sandstorm around him. Guqing Shan also drew the earth sword from the void of space and prepared for battle. 2 lines of glowing text had already appeared in the void in front of him. A newcomer came into contact with this apocalypse for the first time, thus lowering the difficulty of your 4th destruction. The battle is about to begin. Please get ready. 2 figures walked out from the sandstorm. A spellcaster dressed in a red robe and a warrior wielding a large shield and a spear. The warrior faced the 2 of them. The caster appeared behind the 2 of them. "The caster seems quite strong. Leave it to me," Crow quickly said. He turned around and faced the red-robed spellcaster. "No, it's your first time here, and your first opponent is that warrior," Guqing Shan said. Crow looked back at the warrior. The warrior's energy waves were a few times weaker than the red-robed spellcaster's. "I'll let you practice with this trash. I want to fight against this caster and get a feel of this apocalypse," Crow said. Guqing Shan had no choice but to point her sword at the warrior. At this point, the red-robed spellcaster's gaze went past Crow and towards Guqing Shan. "Fiend, your enemy is me. Look. He wants to fight me," Guqing Shan told Crow. "It's fine, I'll deal with him for you," Crow insisted. As the 2 of them were talking, the warrior turned to Crow and said, "Fellow of the avian tribe, your opponent is me." It was now that Crow was a bit interested, and asked in surprise, "You can tell that I'm an avian?" The warrior scoffed. "That's right, avian, you shall die by my spear." All was quiet. Guqing Shan, Let's switch places. I've decided to kill this talkative warrior." "Very well." The 2 of them switched places. Boundless killing intent exuded from Crow's body. He pointed his rapier at the warrior and muttered, "Facing me is the same as facing death. Are you prepared?" The warrior didn't say a word and charged towards him. Crow raised his rapier and lightly swung it. Boom! With a resounding explosion, the warrior, along with the shield and spear in front of him, exploded into a sky-high pillar of flames. "Trash, you dared to speak so rudely to me, you'll die a quick death," Crow scoffed. On the other side, Gu Qing-shan faced the red-robed spellcaster, wielding her rapier with one hand as she walked forward step by step. "What kind of entity are you exactly?" she asked as she walked. The red-robed spellcaster's sleeves fluttered in the wind, his hands glowing in a purple glow. "You want to know? You'll have to win against me first." The spellcaster clasped his hands together. The purple glow quickly converged into a cluster of rapidly vibrating light. His technique had been prepared. Gu Qing-shan shook her head. "If there's anything you can't say, you can tell us. It's not like we have to fight and kill each other. Die!" The red-robed spellcaster shouted and tossed the cluster of purple light towards Gu Qing-shan. Gu Qing-shan sighed and stood still. The cluster of purple light broke through the void of space, leaving a trail of darkness behind it as it flew, reaching Gu Qing-shan in the blink of an eye. Gu Qing-shan still didn't move. He simply, abruptly disappeared. Divine skill, shadow shift. The red-robed spellcaster abruptly appeared where he originally stood. At this point, the cluster of purple light had already reached him, so the red-robed spellcaster didn't have the chance to put up any defenses. Bam! With a heavy resounding sound, the cluster of purple light entered its master's body and began to destroy everything. Embark! The red-robed spellcaster fell to his knees, screaming like he had lost his mind. He was already heavily wounded. Gu Qing-shan looked at him from afar and tried to persuade him. "Fighting is so boring, how about we talk for a bit?" While breathing heavily, the red-robed spellcaster quickly chanted a spell to create a barrier of light around himself. "I was too careless just now. Now that you have the protection of the purple flame shield, I want you dead," the red-robed spellcaster declared with a twisted expression. Hearing that, Gu Qing-shan couldn't help but sigh. "It doesn't make sense at all." Then there's only Gu Qing-shan spoke to the void of space. Switch with him, a low woo-woo sound resounded from the void of space, followed by, the red-robed spellcaster once again disappeared and reappeared in front of Gu Qing-shan. Gu Qing-shan grabbed him by the neck. Inside the barrier of light, the void of space trembled a bit before returning to normal. Jade Pendant Adorable used a divine skill, Shadow Shift. It directly switched the red-robed spellcaster out of the barrier. Gu Qing-shan held the red-robed spellcaster down. "Don't move, you'll die if you do." 4 swords appeared from the void of space, 2 of which were placed on the red-robed spellcaster's neck, one pointed at his heart, and the last at his waist. Gu Qing-shan looked down at where the earth sword was pointing at, then looked away. "Tell me about the apocalypse, then I'll let you go." The red-robed spellcaster trembled. "The other party didn't even need to attack to defeat me. What unimaginable combat prowess! Could it be?" The red-robed spellcaster's eyes showed fear. Gu Qing-shan didn't know what he was thinking, but she managed to catch his emotions right away. Gu Qing-shan's thoughts quickly turned, then slowly spoke with a gentle tone. "I'm in charge of resurrection and the dead. As long as you tell me where you came from, I'll save you from the apocalypse. I want you to swear." The red-robed spellcaster quickly spoke in a low voice. "Of course I can." Gu Qing-shan made up her mind and swore. "I hereby swear, as long as..." Before she could finish her words, the red-robed spellcaster's body in her hand turned into fine grains of sand that scattered into the surrounding sandstorm. The red-robed spellcaster's expression was still full of fear as he muttered, "Save me." At the very last moment, his expression suddenly turned stiff and changed to a cold and solemn tone. "Life and death are only the surface of reality, yet mortals indulge in it." Saying so, the red-robed spellcaster completely turned into sandstorm and slowly faded away. The sandstorm howled as it faded into the void of space and disappeared without a trace. Gu Qing-shan froze in place. Crow stood not too far away, silently watching this. "Huh? Even God couldn't do anything?" Crow muttered. Although he was speaking in a mocking tone, neither he nor Gu Qing-shan laughed. At the very last moment, I felt like that spellcaster had suddenly changed into another person, Gu Qing-shan muttered. That's right, I also felt it, Crow agreed. Have you ever seen an apocalypse like this? Gu Qing-shan asked. I haven't, to be honest, I'm a bit nervous right now, Crow replied. This spellcaster was actually a part of the apocalypse, but he still retained his thoughts and will. At the very last moment, as he faded away, he was replaced by another entity who said something completely different. How eerie. Let's go, the quest has us reinforce a place called Blue Mountain City. We need to head there right away. Perhaps we'll be able to obtain more information there, Crow said. Crow shrugged. Not sure, either way, we didn't make it to the large-scale battle. Perhaps by the time we reach Blue Mountain City, everything would already be over. Gu Qing-shan glanced at him and said, Don't say anything stupid, you were right just now. Crow didn't mind. I was just saying, as the two of them were about to move, their ID cards began to vibrate again. A voice resounded from the ID card. Frowny face, attention please. Blue Mountain City had been destroyed by the apocalypse. The two of them froze. Crow's expression slowly turned serious. Blue Mountain City, there were 5 groups of professionists, and the 2 titled combatants I know were there. What the hell, did they both die? He muttered to himself. The two of them exchanged glances. If they hadn't been delayed by this small sandstorm, the two of them would have most likely arrived at Blue Mountain City already. What would have been the result of that? Gu Qing-shan took one last look at the ruins of the town and muttered, Such a powerful thing, what exactly was it? Chapter 1385. The communication was still ongoing. A final voice rang out from the identity nameplate. Frowny face, according to spell prediction, there might be survivors in Blue Mountain City. Please proceed to confirm the situation. A new mission is being arranged. Please keep an eye out for the latest mission announcements. Only then did the vibration on the identity nameplate stop. There are survivors, Gu Qing-shan said. Come on, let's go take a look, maybe we can get some information, Crow immediately said. Okay. Gu Qing-shan replied. The two of them soared into the sky and flew towards Azure Mountain City. Due to being delayed by the apocalypse, they didn't manage to reinforce Azure Mountain City in time. This time, both of them rushed back as fast as they could. Dozens of breaths later, they descended from the sky and stopped in front of a burning city. The fire is very big, Gu Qing-shan said. He released his divine telekinesis to scan the entire city, and his heart gradually sank. The scene in the city was like hell. There is one alive. After saying that, Gu Qing-shan disappeared from the spot. Crow glanced at the endless flames of the city, then unsheathed his rapier and pointed it forward. The power of fire should belong to this sword, he muttered. After chanting the incantation, boundless flames flew out from the city and rushed towards the rapier. The flames that filled the sky were like a sea, and all of them were contained in a thin sword that looked like a thorn. Looking at Blue Mountain City, there were no longer any burning spots. The entire city was pitch black. There were corpses everywhere. There were even some remains of high-grade professions. Crow then flew into the city to find Gu Qing-shan. He soon arrived in front of a collapsed church. Gu Qing-shan stood in front of him, looking at a dilapidated corner of the church. A baby in swaddling clothes was sleeping soundly. This is the only survivor? Crow asked. That's right, I didn't find anyone else alive, Gu Qing-shan said. Are you sure? Crow asked. Yeah, I'm quite capable in conducting a carpet search. Only this little guy is still alive, Gu Qing-shan said. Crow sighed, then asked, How did this guy survive? Gu Qing-shan pointed at the corner, signaling Crow to take a closer look. The Crow stationary realm looked over and saw that there were many holy runes etched on the corner. So it was a high-level quarantine formation, but would such a formation be useful against an apocalypse? Crow didn't quite understand. If it was really useful, the apocalypse would have been suppressed long ago. Gu Qingshan gently picked up the baby along with the swaddling clothes, carefully looked at him, then said, I heard that the women and children had already been moved to the capital city, so this baby might have been left behind here, then coincidentally ran into the apocalypse. Due to the protection of the Holy Light Formation, as well as the fact that he was just born, the enemies he attracted were too weak, so they helped him kill off the baby, so he managed to survive. His analysis made a lot of sense, so Crow also nodded. Should we bring him along? Crow asked. What else? Gu Qingshan asked. I don't know how to change diapers, Crow casually replied. You feed him, I'll change his diapers. Gu Qingshan assigned the task. I don't have any milk, Crow once again casually replied. Gu Qingshan scowled. Can't you just give him something to eat? It has nothing to do with whether or not you have milk, Crow sincerely replied. Babies need to be fed, or there's nothing we can do about this. We'll just have to wait and see if there's a chance to go to the capital city. Once we get there, we'll entrust him to the people of this world, or directly to the Evacuation and Relocation Organization. Gu Qingshan looked down at the baby. The baby was sleeping soundly. While we don't have a mission right now, let's quickly head to this world's capital city and take care of this baby, Gu Qingshan decisively said. Crow agreed. That's right, taking care of babies isn't something we're good at. As the two of them were about to move, they suddenly stopped. Around them, a sandstorm was blowing. Lines of glowing text appeared in the void of space. Frowny face, there are no newcomers to face the apocalypse this time. Your destruction has entered the second phase. Within the intense sandstorm, yellow sand covered the sky. 2 people and 1 baby were completely surrounded. Why do I feel like it's going to be a lot harder this time? Crow doubtfully asked. Prepare for battle, Gu Qingshan curtly said. He was holding the baby in his left hand, while wielding the earth sword in his right. 3 figures slowly appeared from the sandstorm in front of them. A spellcaster, a giant covered in heavy armor, and a 3-headed hound shrouded in green mist. Crow pointed his rapier at the 3-headed hound. Fiend, it's a dog from your homeland. I don't know it, Gu Qingshan replied. Be careful, it seems to be carrying some sort of powerful poison. Of course you wouldn't be afraid, but the little guy in your hand might not be able to handle it, Crow said. Gu Qingshan nodded. Both of them were a bit cautious, because the 3 monsters in front of them were giving off strange fluctuations. The caster first turned to Crow and spoke. Swordsman, your opponent is me. The giant swung his battle axe and roared at Gu Qingshan. The 3-headed hound looked at the baby in his hand, drooling. The meaning of this was clear. Crow quickly said, You can deal with 2 of them at once, can you? Not at all, as long as the baby doesn't wake up, Gu Qingshan replied. Don't worry, he's sleeping very soundly. He won't wake up right now, Crow said. The baby opened his eyes and curiously glanced at him, then, wah wah wah, the baby immediately began to cry. Gu Qingshan. At this point, the 3-headed hound was the first to rush forward. The battle had begun. Crow drew his rapier. I'm going to kill the caster, I'll help you later. Saying so, he leapt forward. On Gu Qingshan's side, as the 3-headed hound was about to reach him, his figure suddenly flashed and turned into 7 to 8 illusions. Each of the illusions was incredibly lifelike, no different from the real him. First published on August 1's Chinese website. Hitman movement technique, flowing shadow steps. The 3-headed hound was confused, not knowing which Gu Qingshan to attack. At this point, a line of glowing text quickly appeared. Frowny face, attention. One of your abilities has been extracted by the giant. Please be careful. Gu Qingshan's expression changed. What? It can extract my ability as well? He abruptly turned to the giant. The giant angrily roared. Fiend, I know your codename is Dragon King of Atrocity Jail. I'll call you. Do you dare to answer? Gu Qingshan. Answer my ass. He was still shocked. During the second apocalypse, his leather armor was instantly destroyed, and now he's able to use his abilities. The baby in his hand was still crying and moving its body awkwardly. If he's frozen, Gu Qingshan stopped observing these monsters. He abruptly leapt forward and slashed at the three-headed hound. The three-headed hound was confused and didn't move. Gu Qingshan's attack was still quite a distance away from him. How could that hit me? Blood splattered. The three-headed hound turned into a mist of blood in midair and was sent flying. Secret art, a life seeker. Because this three-headed hound was poisoned, Gu Qingshan decided to kill it from afar. Against this apocalypse, he didn't want to expose too many of his swords and trump cards. Gu Qingshan put his sword away and looked at the giant. Seeing that he didn't answer, the giant rolled his eyes and shouted, "Fiend, if you don't answer, I'll assume that you're afraid." Gu Qingshan's expression changed. If that's the case, answering would be the same as being hit. Not answering would be assumed to be cowardice and being hit. A second later, Gu Qingshan stood still, unable to move. He silently sighed. This giant is quite smart to be able to think of such a method to use the Azure Dragon origin hex. But isn't this just being shameless? Perhaps this is the true essence of this technique? While Gu Qingshan was contemplating this, the giant had already rushed forward. Dong, 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 dong. The earth trembled. "You can't move anymore, pitiful bastard. Watch as I send you to the apocalypse with a swing of my axe." The giant smirked and swung his axe down at Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan stood still and parried with his sword. Clang! A deafening sound of weapons clashing. The giant was sent flying along with his axe. Gu Qingshan swung his sword and pointed it straight at the giant. A gigantic sword phantom shot forward, caught up to the giant, and slashed him into a mass of blood that was blown away by the wind. Secret art, river-blocking iron sword. Gu Qingshan held the baby in one hand and the earth sword in the other, shaking his head. "I'm sorry, if we're comparing strength, this sword of mine won't admit defeat." Chapter 1386. The sword parried the giant's axe, sending the armored giant flying and turning it into a mass of flesh and blood in midair. The flesh and blood flew straight into the sandstorm and vanished without a trace. On the other side, Crow had also finished his battle. His rapier stabbed straight through the caster's chest, shattering him into scattered sandstorm. Crow turned around, only to see Gu Qingshan hugging the infant, humming a tune as her hands moved. "Ah, don't cry, Gu Qingshan scoffed. Crow face-bombed. "Hey, you're holding him upside down, the infant's head should be in your arms, not with his feet facing up and his head facing down." Gu Qingshan was surprised. "I thought that would help him sleep." He adjusted the infant's posture and looked at Crow. "You seem to be quite experienced, how about you carry him instead?" Crow refused and took a step back. "I can fight, but I've only seen others do something like coaxing a baby. I've never tried it before." Gu Qingshan looked at the crying infant in her arms and doubtfully asked, "Is this little guy hungry?" "I don't know, but neither you nor I have any milk, so we need to hurry to the capital city. That's where there's food for infants," Crow replied. "You're right, let's go," Gu Qingshan also said. As the two of them were about to move, their ID cards vibrated again. "Frowny face, attention please. Attention please. All civilians have been evacuated to the Gloom Obsidian Star. The Gloom Forest world's destruction is irreversible. We will preserve the following warp points for professionists to travel to the Gloom Obsidian Star." A few glows of light appeared from the ID cards, manifesting as coordinates in the air. "It fell so quickly," Gu Qingshan muttered in a low voice. Crow pondered. "Something doesn't seem right. The apocalypse we ran into didn't seem to be powerful enough to force everyone to flee." Gu Qingshan disagreed and said, "No, I've been in contact with this apocalypse more than you. I've noticed that the more apocalypses I run into, the more powerful they become." While saying that, Gu Qingshan silently asked the war god UI in her mind, "Interface, you said that this apocalypse is similar to the end of the sandstorm. Can you confirm it now? The war god Yui replied. We don't have enough information. We can't be sure. Gu Qingshan continued asking. If it's the end of the sandstorm, then it must be a growth-type apocalypse. In your opinion, is this apocalypse's growth rate normal? It's not normal, it's growing too quickly. The war god Yui commented. Gu Qingshan looked at her remaining soul points. 2 sentences and 2,000 soul points were gone. Gu Qingshan could not help but sigh inwardly. Soul power was still secondary. The key was that the current situation was somewhat confusing. Could it be an apocalypse that was even stronger than Sandstorm's end? Suddenly, a slight noise interrupted his thoughts. There was a sour smell in the air. Crow's nose twitched, then commented. This is usually the smell of a baby's stink after drinking milk. Gu Qingshan handed the baby to him and said, If you know, then help this little one. Before he could finish, Crow had already retreated several dozen meters away, waving his hand dismissively. I just happen to have a few friends who are breastfeeding right now, so I know a bit about it. But I don't know anything about washing buttocks or changing diapers, so you'll have to do it. Gu Qingshan raised the baby and met Crow's gaze. Do your best, you'll get it after a few more practices, Crow encouraged him. Gu Qingshan was speechless. The baby cried even louder. Calm down, I need to calm down, Gu Qingshan muttered to himself. He placed the baby on the ground and opened the swaddling clothes, only to see that the baby's clothes were already covered in feces and urine. I don't even have a change of clothes right now. What do I do now? The apocalypse has already engulfed this world. Gu Qingshan finally thought it through. He wielded the heaven sword with one hand and looked at the crying baby. Do you want to kill him? Crow asked. Do you think I'm a devil? Gu Qingshan asked in return. You've always been a devil. That's not it, I have a solution. Saying so, Gu Qingshan silently communicated with his swords. Bingley, how about we use chaotic flow? Luo Bingley was confused. This baby is still alive and well, why would we use chaotic flow? Shanu also asked. Gongzi, do you want to make this baby grow up? The Earth Sword also replied. That won't work, although the Heaven Sword can make this little one skip the current moment and directly arrive at the time and state you specify. This little one hasn't experienced anything yet. His mind isn't mature, so it's useless, Gu Qingshan explained. None of you understand. I want to use chaotic flow to make this little one return to the state he was in a few hours ago. That way, he won't need to shit, and the feces all over his body will also disappear. The 4 swords all fell to the ground. Gu Qingshan, this divine skill of mine isn't for washing diapers. Can't you just use a cleaning hand seal? Luo Bingley almost shouted out loud. I'm currently an evil creature. I can't expose my identity as a cultivator, Gu Qingshan insisted. Gongzi, you should think of something else. It's currently the apocalypse. It's best to leave chaotic flow for now, Shanu suggested. Gu Qingshan fell into deep thought. It really was an oversight. I don't even know how to wash diapers. If I can use a hand seal to clean it up, it wouldn't be an issue. But Crow is still here, and this place is in ruins without even a drop of water. Crow is a fire elemental swordsman, while I'm a fear fiend, as well as a shadow fiend. Neither of us have a way to make water. Crow said. Hey, how about we go directly to the Gloom Obsidian Star? There must be civilians there who know how to do this, and they can even feed this little one milk. Is the warp point far away? Gu Qingshan asked. It's a bit further than the capital city. Let's try to hurry, Crow replied. Gu Qingshan suddenly paused, then clapped his hands. I have an idea, Crow, wait a bit for me. He happily took the baby in his arms and activated his world technique. Fog Realm Descent. Layers upon layers of fog surrounded him and devoured him. At another location. Void City. A small brick house. Buttercup was cooking in the kitchen when she sensed something, so she put down the spatula in her hand and came to the living room. Layers upon layers of fog descended from the void. Right after that, Gu Shan appeared with a crying baby in her arms. Buttercup scowled and asked, "Who did you knock up this time? Is it Meow?" No, Gu Shan hurriedly denied it. He explained what happened. Buttercup took off her apron, took the baby from Gu Shan's hands, skillfully cleaned it, then hummed a song and lightly shook it a few times. The baby slowly fell asleep. Gu Shan sighed in admiration. Professionals really do need professionals to do it. Buttercup glanced at him in disdain, went into the room, put the baby on the bed, then returned. "Do you want to eat before you leave?" she asked Gu Shan. "No need, I'll leave this baby to you for now. I'll go do that large-scale quest first," Gu Shan replied. "No problem, but you need to be careful. I heard that there's something wrong with that quest. Quite a few professionists have died," Buttercup told her. "All right, I'll be careful," Gu Shan cautiously replied. His figure disappeared into the fog, slowly disappearing from Buttercup's sight. He left. Buttercup stopped cooking and returned to the room, looking at the baby. "He's already gone, stop pretending," Buttercup commented. The baby suddenly opened his eyes. His body slowly grew larger and turned into a beautiful woman. "Your bed is so comfortable," the woman commented. "If you want to sleep, go back to the city lord's manor. Why are you sleeping here?" Buttercup crossed her arms and said. The woman sat up on the bed, then said, "All right, I'll be going," she lightly hovered. Buttercup suddenly asked, "Why did you follow him? Why were you with him?" The woman replied, "You mentioned him to me, and I was the one who gave him his codename, so I had to personally take a look, and the results?" Buttercup asked. The woman seemed to have thought of something and chuckled. "It's fine for now, but when that event begins, I'll give the Hitman Guild a quota to send a titled hitman. As for whether or not this Dragon King of Atrocity Jail can participate, that'll depend on his own strength." The woman's expression turned serious, then said, "Buttercup, don't tell anyone about this." After saying so, she disappeared. Buttercup stood still for a while. "So she's going to personally take a look, how careful," she murmured in a low voice. Chapter 1387. The World of Gloom Woodland. The fog had descended. Gu Shan walked out from the layers of fog. "Where did you send the little guy?" Crow asked. "Void City," Gu Shan replied. "Now we can fight without worry," Crow smiled. "Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with the little guy," Gu Shan commented. After a few tests, whether it was carrying him upside down or threatening him with a sword, the baby was still a baby. Even during the battle, when Gu Shan was carrying the baby, ready to be assassinated or ambushed at any moment, the baby still didn't move. After Buttercup carried him, she nodded to me, signaling that there's nothing wrong. "Don't worry." The two of them looked around. Complete ruin. Blue Mountain City had been completely destroyed. Although the quest told them to warp away, both of them were a bit unwilling. Gloom Woodland's capital city was home to many races. It was powerful and had the support of many professionists. I really don't understand how it could be broken through so quickly. Crow was in deep thought. "How about we take a look?" Gu Shan suggested. He also had a lot of doubts in his mind. Crow thought for a bit, then said, "If we go, we might, sure." Gu Shan hurriedly gestured for him to stop. "What is it?" Crow was confused. "With that mouth of yours, anything you say can easily go wrong. It's best if you don't say it," Gu Shan said. Crow shook his head. "I've already gone to a testing organization to check. I don't actually have any sort of spiritual speech ability, nor do I have any fate-type spells, so this is all a coincidence." "A coincidence?" Gu Shan doubtfully asked. "Yes, a coincidence," Crow smiled. "For example, what I'm saying right now is that we're about to be surrounded by countless monsters." Gu Shan drew her swords and nervously observed their surroundings. The surroundings were deathly silent. 1 breath, 2 breath, 3 breath. Nothing else happened. "See, coincidences only happen occasionally, they're not real abilities," Crow shrugged. Gu Qingshan sighed in relief. That's good, then let's head to the capital city and see if we can find any information. Go! The two of them soared into the clouds and flew toward Monarch City. They hurried on with all their might and finally saw King City after 15 minutes. The two of them landed. This place was still in ruins. The entire King City was completely destroyed by the apocalypse. Unlike Blue Mountain City, there were not many corpses here, and most of them were high-grade professions. The civilians had all been moved to the Dark Rock Star. Gu Qingshan released her spiritual sense and carefully scanned the entire city, trying to find some clues. There's a corpse we need to take a look at, Gu Qingshan said. Very well, Crow replied. The two of them flew all the way and arrived in front of a corpse. I know him, he's the librarian of the Void Library, Crow whispered. The Void Library was a branch of Void City that focused on collecting knowledge, similar to the Spire Keeper Association of the 900 million world layers. Gu Qingshan squatted down, pried open the corpse's hand, and took out a leaf. The leaves of the Tree of Knowledge are the hardest to decay. Let's take a look at what's written here, Crow said. Gu Qingshan looked at the leaf and muttered, These monsters are all extinct species, they shouldn't have. There were only so many words, and they looked extremely messy, as if this professionist had hurriedly scribbled them out of extreme danger. Before he could finish, he died. Gu Qingshan looked at the corpse, only to see that the corpse's expression was still frozen with shock and disbelief. It was as if he was still in a state of shock right before his death. Extinct species, Gu Qingshan and Crow both fell into thought. Crow spoke up. If that's the case, the casters and warriors we ran into earlier seem to belong to an extinct civilization. What about the giant? Gu Qingshan asked. I only know a bit about it. We'll need to go to the Void Library to verify this, Crow replied. Gu Qingshan sighed. That won't do, there are too many possibilities, we need more information, Crow replied. That's easy, let's head to the Gloom Obsidian Star and meet up with the other professionists, we'll discuss each other's information. How far away is the warp point from us? Gu Qingshan asked. Crow pointed in a certain direction. There's still a self-destructing warp point left outside the city, we can use it once. With such a short distance, there's no need to be afraid even if the apocalypse appears. Boom! The ground trembled. A sandstorm kicked up. Yellow sand filled the sky, obscuring everything. The world fell into darkness. From the boundless yellow sand, monsters appeared one after another. As far as the eye could see, there was no end to the monsters, they had practically filled the entire city. Even the wilderness outside the city was filled with them. They silently surrounded Gu Qingshan and Crow. Gu Qingshan and Crow were stunned. They couldn't win against them at all. Gu Qingshan called out. Crow anxiously observed the seemingly endless monsters. I suggest that you re-examine your spirit of speech. After saying so, Gu Qingshan abruptly let go of the twin swords Heaven and Earth and drew the Six Paths Great Mountain Sword. At first, I thought there would only be two monsters, but now an endless horde of monsters had appeared. Could it be that the monsters from before were only used to deceive? That makes sense. Once the monsters understand enough about a professionist, they would suddenly appear in large numbers, using their absolute advantage in both strength and numbers to directly crush the professionist to death. Some of them could destroy defensive equipment, some could absorb skills, and even many other abilities, so no matter who they were up against, they would be able to swarm and eliminate them. Any general would know that war was a battle of numbers, using absolute advantage to defeat the minority. This was a complete strategy. Gu Qingshan felt a chill running down her spine. The apocalypse. They're using the law of war against professionists. No. This isn't the apocalypse. This isn't the apocalypse. But if this isn't the apocalypse, what is it? Gu Qingshan forced herself to remain calm, quickly thinking, observing, and pondering. What now? There's no time. I'm going to go all out today. Crow drew his rapier and shouted at the horde of monsters. At the same time, he sent telepathy to Gu Qingshan. Hurry! Use that fog warp from before to teleport us away, otherwise we'll really die here. Gu Qingshan didn't seem to notice at all and pointed the limpid autumn water sword in her hand forward. Countless tiny sword phantoms erupted from the sword, clashing over 1,000,000 times in the blink of an eye. Ong 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 ong! Boom! Within the ruins, a sea of flames once again descended. This wasn't the flames of the apocalypse, but rather the power of the divine sword's spells. This swordsmanship was performed by the Six Paths Great Mountain Sword, so no spells or defensive techniques could stop it. In an instant, all the spells and spells unleashed by the monsters were extinguished by the flames. The flame slash was called Parting Fire, the first strike of the divine skill. The Azura divine sword required soul points, so this strike from Gu Qingshan unleashed endless flames that enveloped the entire city. His soul points were quickly dropping. Without any time to feel sorry for his soul points, Gu Qingshan swung her sword again. The raging flames on the sword had completely disappeared. A layer of white frost began to spread from the sword, slowly spreading like an invisible blizzard that swept across the entire city. The second strike of the divine skill, Frost Edge, a sword of extinction. Frost Edge, immobilizing all living beings, this was the divine skill of Sword of Extinction. The deep white frost began to spread, quickly covered every monster's body, then spread to every monster in the city. The monsters couldn't move. Go! To the warp point! Gu Qingshan shouted. He had tried it before. When he was in the middle of an apocalypse, even if he teleported away, the apocalypse would still follow him. I can't bring this apocalypse to Void City. Hearing him say that, Crow immediately moved. The two of them, one in front and one behind, desperately flew towards the warp point. Their speed was like 2 streaks of lightning. Go! Crow shouted, then placed the ID card at the designated spot. Gu Qingshan also quickly placed her ID card there. The warp point was a hidden meadow, so as it sensed the 2 ID cards, it was activated. We need 5 breaths worth of time, Crow loudly said. All right, we'll stand guard for a bit longer, Gu Qingshan said. Not too far away, the monsters within the thick layer of ice began to tremble. They were desperately trying to break free from this divine sword. 1 breath. 2 breath. Dozens of monsters with the most powerful presences broke free from the ice seal. Crow wielded his rapier, swung it forward, and muttered, Your deaths now shall be reaped by my future self. Rumble, rumble. The monsters all fell to the ground. Crow cautiously stared at the fallen monsters. The monsters were still struggling on the ground, but quickly died. Crow sighed in relief. I didn't see you attack, Gu Qingshan said. Crow hurriedly said, My future self will kill them. If my future self failed, they wouldn't have died just now, I would have been the one to die. Gu Qingshan didn't have time to say anything else and turned her gaze towards the city. Only to see that the countless monsters had begun to break free from the ice. There were simply too many of them. Although Gu Qingshan had the Azura divine skill, the Six Paths Great Mountain Sword, as well as a large amount of soul points to support him, he couldn't control them for too long. 2 breaths worth of time left. Crow shouted. That technique of yours is too dangerous, let me do it, Gu Qingshan said. Saying so, he put his sword away. Crow gave him a strange look. If you want to attack, just do it. Why did you put your weapon away? Gu Qingshan's killing intent surged. A resounding sound resounded across the entire world. Wind, sand, the city, and the monsters were all blown away by this sound. Mind Sword, a sun-moon eclipse. As soon as Gu Qingshan unleashed this attack, he didn't have time to see the result. The warp point on the ground suddenly gave off layers of white light that enveloped both him and Crow. The white light turned into a gate that sucked them inside. Chapter 1388. The light of warp flashed. As soon as Gu Qingshan and Crow appeared, they heard a clamor of urging voices. "Don't go out and fight. Stay here and wait for reinforcements. Don't leave this stone tower. Anyone who leaves is already dead. Reinforcements are on their way." The tall stone walls blocked their vision, so Gu Qingshan held his sword and looked around, but didn't see a single person. This was a stone tower with a narrow space. It was about 2 stories tall, and the inner walls were engraved with various runes and patterns using the spells of various civilizations, forming a space-isolating force. While Gu Qingshan and Crow were standing inside the stone tower, they had already taken up about 1/5 of the space. Quite obviously, this was a spatial tower used solely for warp purposes. People could travel between worlds through this tower, but very rarely stayed here. Crow crouched down and picked up 4 white stones from the ground. The warning voices from before were still resounding from the stones. "This is a voice recorder stone," Crow explained. "As long as you hold it tightly and speak into it, it will record the first thing you say, then continuously repeat it." Gu Qingshan released his inner sight, spreading it through the stone walls. There wasn't a single living creature in the barren wilderness, only numerous collapsed structures and countless corpses. All traces of civilization had been destroyed. Instead, the spatial warp tower that Void City built became the only surviving structure in this world. "They're all dead," Gu Qingshan said. "What?" Crow asked. "I said, everyone in this world is dead," Gu Qingshan replied. This time, Crow understood. He walked to the window and looked outside, only to see that every single corpse had a completely different expression on their faces. Among the professionists who died together, some of them still had a stiff smile on their faces, some had despair on their faces due to fear, while others still had blank expressions on their faces even after death. Crow felt chills running down his spine and sighed. "I thought we were saved, but it turned out to be like this. It's been a long time since I've experienced something so eerie and dangerous. How strange, how exactly did the people of this world die?" Gu Qingshan was confused. Suddenly, his expression changed. On the field outside the stone tower, among the countless corpses, Gu Qingshan sensed a weak aura. Within a radius of tens of thousands of kilometers, there was only one aura that represented life. "Crow, there's someone still alive outside. I need to take a look," Gu Qingshan said. "Didn't you hear what the rock said? Those who left the tower are all dead," Crow warned. Gu Qingshan was silent for a while and insisted. "I have to rescue that person. Otherwise, hiding here without any information is no different from waiting for death." He took out a strand of hair from his inventory bag and wrapped it around his waist. "Hair? What are you doing?" Crow asked in confusion. Gu Qingshan tied the hair into a knot, then gave one end of the hair to Crow. "This strand of hair has the ability to stretch and contract at will, so when you try to pull it, it will pull me back," Gu Qingshan explained. This was Lin's hair. Back on the Gemini star, when Magic Dragon was chasing after them, Lin decided to buy time for Gu Qingshan to escape first, so she pulled out this strand of hair and tied it around her waist, then gave the other end to Gu Qingshan. When Gu Qingshan successfully arrived at the warp point, he used this strand of hair to pull the dying Lin to his side, then escaped from Magic Dragon's pursuit. "So, after you save that person, I'll immediately pull you back?" Crow asked. Gu Qingshan explained the method to her, then added, "I should be able to return on my own, but from the expressions of these corpses, I'm afraid things aren't that simple. If I can't return on my own, you'll have to drag me back, all right? If I notice anything amiss, I'll immediately pull you back." Crow held the strand of hair in his hand and said with a cautious expression. Gu Qingshan walked in front of the stone tower and silently calculated the distance. The unconscious person was around 7,000 meters away from the stone tower. "I can't use Adorable in this dangerous place, otherwise, if something happens to the gourd, Gu Qingshan would also feel uneasy. I have to make a trip myself." He took a deep breath, abruptly pushed the door open, and shouted, "Crow, save him!" Before he even finished his words, he vanished. Divine skill, shadow shift. In a split second, Gu Qingshan appeared where the unconscious person was, while the unconscious person had already entered the stone tower. Gu Qingshan then jumped out from the pile of corpses, about to use ground shrink. All of a sudden, he noticed that the scenery around him had changed. The originally silent wilderness was now filled with the sound of explosions of spells. Countless professionists were fighting against the sandstorm monster. This scene only lasted for the blink of an eye. As soon as Gu Qingshan took a step forward, the scenery abruptly shattered, replaced by a new scene. Gu Qingshan found himself sinking into a deep, cold ocean. A few thousand meters in front of him, a giant octopus-like monster was silently watching him. Each of this octopus monster's tentacles had a human head growing out of it. The human heads stared at Gu Qingshan, roaring in unison. The scenery shattered, revealing a completely new world around Gu Qingshan. A burning city. The streets were filled with frenzied people. Gu Qingshan saw a group of staggering people crawling on the ground to feast on a corpse. Man-eater fiends. Gu Qingshan was shocked. Another group of people with bloodshot eyes were charging towards him. Kill, 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 kill. Everyone must die. These people roared. In the sky, there were even people with skeletal wings breathing out elemental tides from their mouth. A giant snake-like monster was slithering on the street on the other side. As Gu Qingshan raised his sword to fight, the scenery abruptly went away from him. He felt an immense force coming from his waist. A powerful pulling force pulled him out of that world and sent him flying back to the stone tower. Bam! The door of the stone tower closed. So it was Crow. He caught the man, lightly placed him on the ground inside the stone tower, then turned around to pull the strand of hair in his hand. As soon as Gu Qingshan returned, he had already closed the stone tower's door. I knew something was wrong when I saw you standing there without moving, so I pulled you back. Crow let go of the strand of hair in his hand and said. Gu Qingshan wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and said, "You did the right thing, otherwise I might not have been able to return." What exactly happened? Crow solemnly asked. Gu Qingshan then explained what happened just now. Crow appeared confused. Never seen it, never heard of it before, he shook his head. The two of them turned to look at the man on the ground. This was a young man wearing glasses, his mouth was bleeding, but his body was still trembling. Gu Qingshan scanned through with his inner sight and found that this man was only breathing out without breathing in, as if he was on the verge of death. Crow, do you know any healing techniques? Gu Qingshan asked. This man on the ground must know something. If Crow can't do anything, he can only use the heaven sword. Crow unsheathed the rapier at his waist and said, "Let me try." Wielding the rapier, he abruptly stabbed it into the man's heart and muttered, "With the fate of living beings as the fruit, unleash thy future vitality, heal all wounds." The slender rapier began to burn with milky white flames. The flames were completely absorbed into the man's body. Crow immediately drew his rapier. Gu Qingshan looked back, only to see that there wasn't even a single wound on the man's chest. His expression had returned to normal, even his breathing had stabilized. Crow appeared exhausted and sat down on the ground. "Is this a healing technique?" Gu Qingshan asked. Saying so, he took out a bottle of strong liquor and gave it to Crow. Crow took a large gulp, then explained, "I came up with a hypothesis of fate, that is, he survived, then used that as the causation to overdraft some of his vitality from his future in order to save him now. Then, what will happen to him in the future?" Gu Qingshan asked. "Nothing much, he'll be weakened for a while at most, but his life will be saved," Crow replied. "How miraculous," Gu Qingshan praised. "This technique consumes a lot of energy, I need to rest for a bit." Crow leaned against the wall, breathing heavily. Gu Qingshan turned to the man in glasses. He had already opened his eyes and sat up, observing the two of them. "Did you save me?" "Yes, this is the teleport tower, you're safe for now, thank you, I'm a researcher of the Void Library. My name is Amaki. Saying so, the man took out a book-shaped insignia. The insignia gave off a unique power fluctuation. After sensing it for a bit, Crow nodded to Gu Qingshan. It's true, he's a member of the Void Library. Gu Qingshan felt a bit more assured and said, I'm Gu Qingshan, this is Crow, we're from the Hitman Guild. Omaki sighed, then spoke in a desolate tone. You shouldn't have come here, this is a completely chaotic place. I know, I've also experienced it just now. There are many overlapping worlds outside, Gu Qingshan replied. Omaki shook his head. That's not the main point. The main point is that the terrifying monsters that have gone extinct in history still exist here. They will devour all professionists who come to fight. Chapter 1389. I love you guys, moi moi moi. Went to visit Qian Sun in Worlds Apocalypse Online, took half a day off. Currently typing, please wait a moment. Once the content has been updated, please refresh the page to receive the latest update. Chapter 1390. A terrifying monster that went extinct long ago? Gu Qingshan and Crow exchanged glances. That's right, we couldn't win at all. I really don't know what happened here, Omaki dejectedly said. You're a researcher of the Void Library, please take a look for us. Saying so, Crow drew his rapier and tapped the void of space a few times. Images of a shield-wielding warrior, a red-robed caster, an armored giant, and a three-headed hound appeared one after another, all of them vivid and lifelike. Gu Qingshan asked from the side, We ran into a few of these guys, do you know who they were? Omaki glanced over them and replied, They were all entities of the Saint Spirit world. You were very lucky to run into them, as they are all races that abide by the rules of combat. What about you? What did you run into? Gu Qingshan asked. There were 2 platoons in this batch. The first platoon consisted of 39 people. They were directly dragged into the ocean, ran into an octopus monster, and were completely wiped out. I was in the second platoon and ran into the plague apocalypse, only managing to escape with my life. In truth, if you hadn't saved me, I would have died as well, as Omaki explained. He couldn't help but display a sorrowful expression. Gu Qingshan's expression changed a bit, then asked, Did each of that octopus monster's tentacles grow a human head? Yes, Omaki replied. What was it? Gu Qingshan pursued. A type of void monster that had long since disappeared from the river of time. Due to its excessively powerful abilities, it was almost invincible within the void. After that, it went to challenge the inner plane and fought for 70 days before being killed by the combined forces of the old gods and the eternal abyss, Omaki explained. Gu Qingshan said, Fortunately, I ran fast enough, otherwise I would have died as well. What's the deal with the plague apocalypse? Crow asked with interest. Omaki patiently explained. The plague apocalypse is an irresistible mutation. Anyone could be infected and turned into a man-killer fiend or man-eater fiend. We conducted reverse research and speculations on this apocalypse, discovering that the plague apocalypse originally had more than 1,000 forms, capable of destroying countless worlds. We were scared to death at the time, but fortunately, this apocalypse had always been in a weakened state, not changing even after it was destroyed. Over 1,000 different forms of the plague? Crow couldn't help but click his tongue and exclaim. Sure enough, scholars like you really do know a lot, Omaki said dejectedly. What's the use of knowing more? This time, we encountered over 1,000 different forms of the plague. It was too terrifying. Everyone ended up dying. And you relied on the power of knowledge to survive, Gu Qingshan gently replied. My original research topic was the plague apocalypse, so after encountering this apocalypse, I managed to hold on for the longest time until your rescue arrived. Speaking of this, Omaki felt somewhat fortunate. Gu Qingshan's mind raced. Why do I feel like? He seemed to have overlooked something. He paced back and forth in the tower, deep in thought. At some point, he finally remembered. It was a conversation. You've encountered a man-killer fiend and a man-eater fiend, correct? The lady asked. Yes, he answered at the time. The lady continued. It was a parallel world apocalypse. It originally swept through every space within that parallel world. Not only were there man-killer fiends and man-eater fiends, but there were also over 1,000 different forms, some of which were simply irresistible and directly destroyed billions of worlds. Although this apocalypse managed to reach our world, it had already used up all of its power, leaving only the man-killer fiends and man-eater fiends. That's right. Gu Qingshan silently clenched his fist. Lady Fusey had once explained to me about the destruction and corrosion of parallel world. She had mentioned this before. Countless overlapping worlds, a lost civilization, and a plague apocalypse at its peak. Lady Fusey's voice once again resounded in his ears. For the remains of a parallel world and the apocalypse they carried, it is very difficult to change from a parallel state to a descended state, as it would consume a large amount of power. Those apocalypses that descended on our world were no longer as powerful, so they wouldn't cause too much of an impact. Under normal circumstances. Could it be? Gu Qingshan felt a chill crawling down his spine. The current moment is, he muttered. According to the common human timekeeping system, it's currently 5 p.m., it's almost nightfall, Crow commented from the side. Gu Qingshan silently shook his head. That's not what I'm asking. I used the power of the 3 coins to return to the moment of the Spire's destruction to fight against the Soul Shrieker. When the world of the Spire turned into a temporal oasis and headed towards the future, I used the distortion power of the space-time coins to escape from the temporal oasis and return to the moment when the Eternal Abyss and the Wraith Realm first began their war. At this point in time, I and Lin should have met up with Lola in the 900 million world layers, and the 3 of them should have returned to the Bramblebird Kingdom. Indeed, I'm currently at this moment. My past self was about to arrive at the Bramblebird Kingdom and meet up with Yi Feili, Zhang Yongho, as well as Boss. And my current self was using the power of distortion to travel through the tomb of myriad beasts to Void City, currently thinking of a way to infiltrate the Wraith Realm. This was a point in time. And it was at this point in time that the fate corrosion, that the Wraith Realm had been planning for countless years, had erupted within the Eternal Abyss. The Eternal Abyss was forced to flow backwards into the 900 million world layers and began to wage the most intense war against the Wraith Realm. What did Lady Fusey say about this? This is too important. Hurry and think, hurry and remember. Gu Qingshan tried his best to recall. What's the matter? Crow noticed his strange expression and doubtfully asked. It's nothing, I'm thinking about something very important, we'll talk about it later. Gu Qingshan waved his hand dismissively. He was trying his best to recall the conversation he had with Lady Fusey. Suddenly, the scene of that conversation appeared in his mind again. Lady Fusey slowly explained. This parallel world was incredibly powerful, intensely fighting against the apocalypse, breaking away from the definition of parallel and falling into our eternal abyss, right next to the reality gate, which means our eternal abyss is currently enduring the fate of that powerful parallel world, as well as the aftermath of that parallel world's apocalypse? That's right, child. Gu Qingshan clenched his fist tightly. This time, it wasn't a normal situation. The countless overlapping worlds, the lost civilization, the plague apocalypse at its peak, could all of these be secondary effects of the fate corrosion? If they came from that incredibly powerful parallel world, everything would make sense. Did you think of anything? Crow observed his expression and curiously asked. Gu Qingshan replied without changing his expression. I didn't, it's nothing more than a few conjectures. I don't have any proof right now, so I can't take it seriously. That should be the case. Apocalypse, civilization, monster. Everything from a parallel world had descended into this world. They were too powerful. No one in this world was a match for them. Bastards! Gu Qingshan suddenly felt a surge of killing intent. What exactly is the Wraith Realm trying to do? Not only do they want to win against the Eternal Abyss, but they also want to completely destroy this world? Ting ting ting. A notification sounded. Gu Qingshan turned around to see Omaki taking out an ID card and reading its content. That's great, the situation here has attracted the attention of the higher-ups, more powerful professionists are about to arrive, and the Void War mode is about to be activated, Omaki said. What's a Void War mode? Gu Qingshan asked. When the infinite worlds of the Void feel that the quest method is unable to resolve the apocalypse, they will band together, gather their armies, and wage war, Omaki replied. Seems like they believe that the apocalypse here is still at unsolvable level, so it's still worth fighting for, Gu Qingshan commented. Indeed, Crow also sighed in relief and continued, that's for the best, we can barely protect ourselves in the current situation, but there are too many enemies, perhaps. Gu Qingshan's figure flashed and disappeared. Divine skill, ground shrink. He immediately leapt forward and covered Crow's mouth. Crow appeared confused. Brother Crow, I'm begging you, the current situation is too dangerous, please don't open your mouth, Gu Qingshan solemnly said. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.